Hi. Hello. It is day 9, and we are going to get started with Hannah Reed. So here we go. Hannah Reed trial. Looks like they're on lunch break right now, or some sort of break. So we're gonna catch up. Here we go, chat. I'm ready to play. Yeah, Lucky Dapper. I had stuff to do today. Okay, so we're gonna start at the beginning. In the beginning. And now I love it because we don't always get this little thing that shows like stuff you can't see. This doesn't always show up, so it's nice I can do it, and we're like, wow, oh, here we go. Now remember, the state has rested their case, so here we go. With that chat, we just skipped like 50 minutes.
Right here, yeah. Face the judge, raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Talk into the microphone.
Thank you. Let's see who this is.
Good morning, Mr. Montoya. Can you please explain to the jury how you are employed?
Morning. My name is Lorenzo Montoya, and I am a compliance officer with New Mexico OSHA.
Oh,
And what do you do
here
as
we
a
go.
compliance officer?
The OSHA
I'm
investigator.
a safety inspector. I'm a safety inspector, accident investigator, in summary.
And what do you need to do to become a safety inspector, accident investigator with OSHA?
I have to cause a lot of accidents.
Well, you'll require some
experience
experience
causing
in the field of
accidents.
safety, workplace safety, industrial safety, chemical safety. Accident investigation requires some training, and that can be accomplished on the job.
And what does OSHA stand for?
Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
And what is that a state agency?
New Mexico OSHA is a state plan, whereas federal OSHA is at the federal level nationwide.
Is the Bureau part of the New Mexico Environment Department?
Yes.
So tell us about your experience then in workplace safety.
Sure. My experience with occupational safety began in the U.S. Air Force as an aircraft mechanic. I was in charge of our hazardous materials program. And following that, I worked for the New Mexico Department of Health at the Behavioral Health Institute, performing more sort of safety and walkthroughs for our patient health in that scenario.
And how long have you been a safety inspector with OSHA?
I've been with OSHA for 5 years.
How did you get involved in the incident we're here for today in this case?
OSHA, one of its duties is to inspect workplace accidents, incidents, or anything that results in a fatality. In this scenario, we were notified of a workplace fatality, and so I was assigned the inspection.
And when you're assigned an inspection that's reported to you, what is the purpose of your investigation?
It's a fact-finding investigation. Our goal is to try to identify what may have caused the incident, so we can either recommend or require corrective measures to prevent such a thing from happening again.
And did you do an investigation of the workplace safety incident that occurred on the set of Rust on October 21st of 2021?
Correct, yes.
What does that mean? What does your investigation entail?
So the investigation is to, if possible, find a root cause for whatever may have led up to the incident. Sometimes things are not so simple, and they have a lot of complicated factors that contribute them to occurring. In this scenario, the investigation is to try to identify what led to the accident occurring, despite whatever measures may have been put in place to mitigate or prevent it in the first place.
And how do you do that? What did you do in this investigation?
The same as any. When we conduct investigations, we interview witnesses. We interview members of management. We might engage with industry professionals if necessary. Visit the site, take photos.
Did you do all those things in this case?
Yes.
When was it that you visited the site?
We originally visited, I believe, the following day, October 22nd. was when we were notified.
Did you communicate with the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department as well?
Only in the beginning, when we were trying to ensure that we would be able to access the site without potentially stepping into a crime scene.
Which witnesses do you remember interviewing in this case?
That day, the only individual present on site was Catherine Rowe Walters.
Okay. And in the course of your investigation, how many witnesses did you interview in this case?
I could only estimate, top of my head. I believe we interviewed 17 people.
Okay. Did you interview Ms. Gutierrez?
We did, yes.
Did you interview Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Did you interview Mr. Baldwin?
Yes.
Did you interview Sarah Zachary?
Yes.
Gabrielle Pickle?
Yes. So, no, wait, not Gabrielle Pickle. Sorry.
Did you review any documents in this case that aided in your investigation?
Yes, we reviewed many documents.
Is your investigation, how is it that you gather documents that you review?
Generally, we request any safety policies, programs, or trainings from the employer.
And what specific documents did you review in this case?
In this case, we had requested any safety policies that they may have, and they provided us with, they're referred to as safety bulletins. And they have a longer title, which I can't recall the name of. They're organized by a committee of some kind. But safety bulletin number 1 is the applicable safety bulletin for firearm safety.
Okay, and what other documents did you review?
They gave us a host of other of the safety bulletins, which cover various miscellanea you encounter on a set, from lighting to electricity and so forth.
What about communications between the various witnesses and cast and crew on set? Did you review any of those things?
We did receive some of those documents, but those did not come from our employer. They came from our individuals that we interviewed.
So the individuals you interviewed, the witnesses, provided you with emails and texts?
Some, yes.
And were you able to come to any findings and conclusions in this case?
We did come to a conclusion.
And were those findings, did you put those findings in a written report?
We did.
Once you do that written report, what's the process there?
We draft the report, proofread it, and when it's completed, we assemble the case file together, and if necessary, we issue citations. And in this scenario, we did issue a citation.
Who did you issue the citation to in this case?
Rust Movie Productions, LLC.
Once you issue, what was the citation that you issued for? Why did you issue a citation?
The citation was issued because, in our conclusions, we determined that the management team was responsible for a series of failures that, in our opinion, accumulated in an accident.
Okay, and by management team, who do you mean specifically?
Specifically, we mean the chain of command above Hannah Gutierrez, beginning at the lowest level with Sarah Zachary, and then Gabrielle Pickle, and then Dave Halls.
So did your findings then include any, so then your findings that you just spoke of, those didn't include Ms. Gutierrez, right?
As an employee directly engaged in the work, she is mentioned in the report frequently, but in terms of who do we identify as a member of management, and thus who do we consider responsible, she's not. She's just an employee.
Okay, and once you do your report and issue the citation, does the employer, the production company, get an opportunity to contest that?
They do.
And did they contest that in this case?
They did.
Was a fine ever ultimately levied against the employer in this case?
There was, yes.
What was that fine?
They came to a settlement agreement with the department at $100,000 even.
And in your experience, have you seen the state of New Mexico levy such a high fine like that to an employer for workplace safety?
This isn't helping.
I believe we have in the past.
Is that an average? Is that a usual fine amount that you see?
For typical inspections, no.
Is it higher or lower?
This would be higher than normal.
In your report that you write, once you're completed it, are there any other individuals who review and audit your work?
There are.
Who explain to the jury the levels of review and audit of your findings and conclusions in your report?
Right. So the proofreading, final edits, and that sort of thing fall to first initially my supervisor, and then her supervisor, who is our program manager, and then from him it would pass up to our bureau chief, Bob Genoway, and as well as our legal team, and potentially our department director, all the way up to the secretary if it's potentially something that is a matter of public interest.
And in fact, in this case, did the secretary for the environment department review and audit your report and your findings?
He reviewed the report. By the time it got to him, there was nothing left then just to review it.
Okay. And does your your report and your citations, are those a matter of public record?
They are.
Is your report kept in the New Mexico OSHA Environment Department?
Yes.
Did you bring a copy? I saw you walk up to the stand today with a folder. Did you bring a copy of your report today?
I have a copy of our investigative summary. Sometimes we refer to that as a narrative.
Okay, and is that the document that you prepared that we've been discussing this morning? That's 11 pages?
It is 11 pages, yes, so possibly.
Okay, and it's this document that you make your findings and conclusions, right?
Yes, we list them out.
Your Honor, I'm going to hand the witness what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit GG. May I approach?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
Where are we approaching? This isn't. Why? Why? These reports are not helping Hannah. Other people can be wrong and Hannah can still be wrong. I just don't get it. When Shaw's in the court, the prosecutor gets worried. No. If that were only the case, oh my God, I wish that were only the case. They are not. They don't get out. They don't. I like dashing in black. Thank you. Vicky saying, hi, Sean and chat. You can see everybody. Yes. I just. Oh my God, they're really going here.
So, and if you need to refresh your memory from looking at your report, I wanted to go through. So did your report include factual findings from your investigation?
Yes, it does.
Did it also include conclusions that you reached from that investigation?
Yes.
And did you conclude whether, with respect to Hannah Gutierrez, whether she was or was, I guess, did you conclude that Hannah was not provided with enough time to inventory and inspect the dummy blink rounds?
Objection.
Approach.
Montoya, in your report, did you conclude whether Hannah was provided with enough time to inventory and inspect dummy rounds and blinks?
That was one of our conclusions, yes.
What specifically did you conclude about that?
May I look at the folder?
Would it refresh your recollection to review your report?
Yes, it would.
Okay. Do you have it in front of you or do you want me to hand you a copy?
I do have a copy in front of me, unless yours is highlighted or marked.
Page 7. Okay. So what were your conclusions with respect to whether Ms. Gutierrez was provided enough time to inventory and inspect the dummy rounds from her employer?
We came to the conclusion that she was not afforded time to conduct her duties to the best of her diligence.
And who didn't give her enough time to do that?
She had been instructed by Gabrielle Pickle to focus on other tasks.
And did you determine whether Rust had any process to ensure that live rounds were not brought onto set?
We determined that Rust did not have any specific processes or procedures to prevent that possibility.
And why was it that was on the employer in your opinion versus the armor?
In that manner, the employer
Because we
is
can't find the
asking
employee.
an individual to perform multiple safety-related functions for them, while also telling them that they're spending too much time engaging in those safety-related functions and need to devote more time to other duties. And on that matter, we determined that to be maybe a managerial decision.
Okay. And did you conclude whether Rust management provided the armor, Ms. Gutierrez, with any authority on training?
We concluded that she effectively had no authority to make any sort of training decisions.
And in your investigation, was that failure to give the armor authority to determine training, was that a violation of any Rust safety procedures?
It was.
What was that a violation of?
Safety bulletin number 1. One of the required items is that the armor determines when training is necessary and if retraining is necessary based on somebody maybe mishandling a firearm.
Okay, and what evidence, did you see any evidence in your investigation about the armor, Ms. Gutierrez, attempting to attain additional training on firearms for the actors?
Not specifically attempting to retrain, to acquire more time for training into my memory.
Okay, and was that did the employer, I guess, did Ms. Gutierrez Reed raise any concerns about not being provided adequate time to perform her armor duties?
Yes.
And what in your investigation was Rust's response to that?
Our conclusion was that those statements regarding not having enough time went unheeded and uncommented on.
By whom?
Gabrielle Pickle and possibly Sarah Zachary or Dave Halls.
Sarah Zachary and Dave Halls?
Yes.
Did you make any conclusions in your findings in your report about who the Rust safety official was on set?
We did.
Who was that?
Dave Halls.
And did you find any fault with anything that Dave Halls did?
So OSHA considers the entire management apparatus to be a single entity. And in this scenario, there are these three individuals who are part of this upper level of management. And Dave Hall's responsibility as a safety coordinator on set, we certainly found that there were a number of safety bulletin number 1 policies that were not followed or adhered to that would fall within his purview.
Okay, and were any of those pertaining to having the actors point guns at crew members?
That is one of the items in the safety bulletin.
And are you saying that Mr. Halls and the rest top level management were in violation of that?
Rust's management team did not take measures that were required in safety bulletin number 1 to permit the aiming of a firearm at a camera or whatever the case may be.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about Rust not providing Ms. Gutierrez with sufficient time to thoroughly inventory ammunition. And by ammunition, I mean blanks and dummies. Were there any findings with respect to Rust providing their staff sufficient time to inspect this ammunition to ensure there were no live rounds present?
No, our conclusion was they weren't afforded time. Sorry. And
with respect to whether or not Rust production showed an indifference to hazards associated with firearms, what was your opinion on that?
The conclusion of the Bureau on that was based on the sheer number of requirements listed in safety bulletin number 1 that were either ignored or otherwise not at all followed or totally contrary in practice to. We found that Rust was willful. They were plain indifferent to the recognized hazards of firearms.
And when you're doing this, does OSHA have a requirement to look at faults of specific employees?
As part of our inspection process, we try to identify a root cause if we can. Whether an accident is caused because someone is falling asleep at the wheel or whatever the case might be, we do try to identify those things. In this scenario, we weren't necessarily able to identify any particular standout reason why an employee would be to blame.
So what was, in total bottom line here, the root cause that you found?
To summarize the entire report would be that Rust Movie Productions identified a hazard, a workplace hazard, working with firearms, and they adopted firearm safety policies, but they totally failed to enforce them, train their employees on them, practice them, reference them, nothing. They adopted it and it stopped at the word adoption. Nothing further happened.
Okay. And was it brought to their attention by Ms. Gutierrez and others that there were these deficiencies?
Safety concerns were raised regarding the policies listed in safety bulletin number 1 not being followed.
And what was Rust's response to those concerns that were raised by Ms. Gutierrez?
Again, they seem to have chosen to simply not respond.
Good morning. I'd like to talk to you a little bit before I get into any of the details, a little bit more about the inspection process that you typically conduct. How long do you have to perform this inspection?
OSHA has a limit of 6 months to the day to initiate and conclude an inspection.
All right. So does that mean that in some instances you may not have all of the evidence that is available from, for example, an investigating law enforcement agency?
Correct.
And in this case, is it true that you did not have the sheriff's report at the time that you issued your report?
Yes, the sheriff's report was the following day or two, I believe.
All right. So just to be clear, none of the information that was included in the sheriff's investigative report made its way into your report and findings, correct?
Correct. Only their initial public release, press release.
The press release.
Only that.
Okay, but not any of the actual investigative materials?
No.
All right. Is OHSV authorized under law to fine or penalize individual employees?
No.
Only employers, correct?
Correct.
And as a result of that, I believe you explained that your primary role of investigation is to look at what the employer did in terms of creating a potentially hazardous situation.
What they could do to prevent it or what they did to create it, yes.
Great, thank you. So even if as part of your investigation, you found concerning conduct by an individual employee, you couldn't issue that person a fine, correct?
Not individually, no.
Great. And this is not a criminal investigation that you're conducting, correct?
Correct.
All right. And so you mentioned you did not review the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office report. Did you conduct a forensic download of any of the individuals' phones involved in this incident?
No.
Did you review the over 100% behind-the-scenes videos that were produced by production outfitters?
No, those were not available to us.
All right. Did you review any footage from the filming of the Rust movie?
Only a small clip that was put into public media.
Was that the clip, just kind of a few-second clip of Mr. Baldwin manipulating the firearm out of his bandolier?
Correct.
So all of the other videos that were filmed as part of the movie, you did not look at any of those, correct?
Correct.
All right. Did you hire any sort of firearms expert to review the revolver or ammunition?
We did not.
All right. Did you hire or consult with an expert in armor, like film armoring?
No, we did not.
All right. Did you review any of the fingerprint analysis from the FBI?
No.
Did you review any of the DNA analysis from the FBI?
No.
Did you review any of the ballistic chemistry analysis from the FBI?
No.
Are you aware that Ms. Gutierrez worked in her role as an armorer for 10 of the 12 filming days?
As far as we're aware, it was only permitted 8 days as an armor.
So you would be surprised to hear that she actually was afforded 10 armor days out of the 12 filming days?
It would be news.
Yes. Okay, great. Are you aware that Ms. Tickle testified at trial that if Ms. Gutierrez had asked for more than those 10 days, she may have granted them if they were justified?
I'm not aware that she testified that.
All right. Are you aware that on the morning of October 21st, 2021, Ms. Gutierrez had approximately 3 hours of time in which she could have inspected ammunition or done a safety check of the revolver involved in this incident?
No.
Are you aware that it's been testified here in the court that Ms. Zachary was Ms. Gutierrez's supervisor when she was performing props, but that the roles were actually reversed, that Ms. Gutierrez provided instruction to Ms. Zachary with regard to the armor duties?
Yes, with some interplay in that they're not quite peers.
Great. And do you agree that Ms. Gutierrez in her role as armorer contributed to some of the issues that you identified in your report?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. Do you agree that Ms. Gutierrez in her role as armorer contributed to some of the findings that you issued in your report?
No, I'm not sure I could necessarily agree.
Okay. Give me just a minute. If you were to return to page 4 of your report. On paragraph 13,
okay.
The last sentence, unless a round is removed from a storage box or firearm and inspected, it cannot be verified as a dummy round. Do you believe that is the function of an armorer to perform this inspection that you indicated on this report?
I believe that would be one of their many functions, yes.
Right. So if she failed to do that, then would she have contributed in this regard?
OSHA's opinion is that management has to enable the work to be done in the first place. So if she didn't do that, our question would be, why wasn't someone ensuring that she would do that? And thus we would turn back to management.
Okay, sure. And that gets back to the whole fact that you're looking at the employer primarily as the basis of your investigation, correct?
Correct.
All right. Do you agree that if Ms. Gutierrez loaded live ammunition into a firearm and then passed it off as a cold gun, that would be a workplace hazard?
Certainly.
All right. And then lastly, are you aware, I believe you conducted an interview with Ms. Gutierrez, correct?
Correct.
And in that interview, she indicated to you that she asked 2 producers for additional training time, correct? Do you recall that?
I don't recall it off my head.
Okay. All right. Nothing further.
Redirect.
That little hypothetical that Mr. Lewis just said, if Ms. Gutierrez had passed off a loaded gun as cold, would that be a workplace hazard? What if Rust had not allowed the armor sufficient time to inspect that gun and rushed her and instructed her specifically of what they wanted her to do? Whose fault would it be then?
Come in.
I think I need to rephrase my question. So if, in what Mr. Lewis had stated, if there was a gun passed off as cold, whose fault would it be, or whose responsibility would it be to ensure that the armor had sufficient time and resources to make that gun safe?
It's always the responsibility of management to supervise effectively and quality control effectively. If an employee is conducting a safety-related task, they pass it off as safe, and supervision does nothing with that, and they allow it to be implemented. It's supervision's responsibility to double-check that.
And was it also Rust's responsibility to ensure that the employee had to take those? I guess, did your investigation reveal that Ms. Gutierrez
Real quick, chat. Sorry, I was on the phone. Did I miss anything other than the state proving that, you guys completed your investigation hastily and that, Hannah still was at fault for not checking? I assuming that wasn't very impressive.
had specifically requested more time to do those safety checks?
She had expressed on more than one occasion that she did not have sufficient time.
And Rust's response, was there any fault in Rust's response to Ms. Gutierrez's concerns and requests?
In one scenario, Gabrielle Pickle responded that to the point that there are no more armor days out of the 8 left, she had responded that then no more training days are to occur. So their response has been to just, okay, we'll cut it then.
Cut off the firearm training days.
Right.
And did you actually receive a copy of the Santa Fe Sheriff's report after this report of yours came out?
Our office received a copy of the report, yes.
And had you guys previously requested that many times from them?
We had previously requested whatever documents they'd be willing to share or assist with.
And is it necessary to review fingerprints to determine whether Rust Management demonstrated an indifference to hazards and violation of their own standards? Do you have to look at fingerprints to do that?
No, not at all.
Do you have to look at DNA to do that?
No.
Or any firearms expert?
Not to determine their safety conduct and so forth, no.
Okay. And were there any other communications that you reviewed between Ms. Gutierrez and Gabrielle Pickle that demonstrated or supported your findings that Rust was at fault in this and not Ms. Gutierrez individually? I'll rephrase the question, Your Honor.
We're going to strike that question. Go ahead. Take another one.
Are there? You said that you can. Is it true that you can actually find fault with specific individuals' conduct?
May I ask you to clarify?
Yeah, you can. Can you find fault with when your investigation? You're looking at specific individuals, and can you say that individual was wrong for doing this?
Objection.
Well,
Okay, so yeah,
I think you're right. I think you already answered that question, so I won't ask it again. Were there any other communications that you observed between Gabrielle Pickle and Ms. Gutierrez that was evidence of Rust not providing Ms. Gutierrez with the necessary resources that she needed?
100% true from Charlie.
Off the top of my head, there was a text conversation and then a separate email.
Steve?
He hasn't talked about what it was. Okay, without stating what the text conversation is, can you please continue your answer?
100% true.
Conversation.
Okay, so you reviewed actual texts and emails between Gabrielle Pickle and Ms. Gutierrez.
We reviewed screenshots of their texts and emails, yes.
Okay, and the relevance of without saying what's in it, the relevance of that informed which findings in your report?
Yes.
Which ones?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, the conversations you reviewed between Gabrielle Pickle and Ms. Gutierrez. What did those pertain to in terms of your findings? Which findings did that?
Apologies. Yes, so I would have to review the text versus the email conversations to remember which one is which. One is regarding the notification regarding that they have used all 8 of their armor days and the no further training then, because that would require more days. And then the other conversation, I believe, was regarding firearms being left unattended or something of that nature.
Okay. And what was your finding? And if you need to refresh your memory by looking at your report, that's fine. But what was your finding with regard to firearms being left unattended?
I don't see why you want to bring this up because it's still. Yeah, Clyde's a little scared of the. We got thunder out here today, so he's a little scared. I don't see why this helps. Okay, great. Production sucked, but legally, someone is responsible. I don't think this overrides everything Hannah's done so far.
Firearms being left unattended. Oh, yeah.
So.
It was the finding in your report pertaining to firearms being left unattended.
Sure.
Oh, he's shaking like a leaf. It's okay,
May I refresh my
buddy.
memory?
Yes, please.
It's okay. A thunderstorm will not get you. I promise.
Okay. Does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
What was that finding?
So our conclusions from that, where in that conversation they expressed that the production team, meaning Gabrielle Pickle and her peers, had received reports that firearms were being left unattended, and Ms. Gutierrez-Reed's response to that.
I want you to tell me what her response was. I want to talk about your finding based on her response.
The finding was that an employee expressed that this was a very serious safety-related job, and that they needed time to conduct that effectively.
Okay. And that was your finding was that what? That Russ.
We consider that heightened awareness. An employee is informing management that there is a safety concern or that they have an issue with something, and it is then on management to then take that concern and do something about it. In this scenario, it resulted in no response.
Okay, buddy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, this witness is excused. Thank you. Next witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Robert Genoway.
Stand before the judge, raise your right hand.
Do you swear affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Have a seat. Talking to the microphone.
Mr. Genoway, can you please just tell the jury how you were employed?
Can we get his spelling? Do you have the name?
Oh, she didn't get the name. Can you please state and spell your name for the jury?
Robert Genoway, that's RobertGenoway.
Mr. Genoway, how are you employed?
I am the Bureau Chief for the Environment Department's Occupational Health and Safety Bureau, also known as New Mexico OSHA.
And what do you do as the bureau chief?
I oversee all of the OSHA operations for the state, including overseeing our compliance and enforcement program.
Are you, in the terms of hierarchy, is there anybody above you?
Not within the OSHA Bureau. I report to Division Director, who reports to our Deputy Cabinet Secretary.
And do you supervise, we just heard from Mr. Montoya, do you supervise Mr. Montoya?
Not directly, but I am in a chain of command over Mr. Montoya.
And how did you review Mr. Montoya's report in this case?
Yes, I did.
And can you explain the process of how that review happens once the report is finalized? What happens with it?
Well, I work with the inspector throughout the course of an investigation, once an investigation is assigned. And once a draft report is produced by the inspector, then it will go through various levels of management review. And for this type of a case, for a fatality investigation, I would normally review the entire case file, including a narrative report and other portions of the case file to ensure that if we're issuing citations that they meet with certain requirements of legal sufficiency.
So you reviewed the entire case file. What is in that case file?
The case file will contain documentation obtained from an employer. Also may contain documentation from other sources, medical investigator reports, any type of police reports that are available at the time, photographs, audio recordings, interviews of employees and other witnesses, and then the documents that are produced by our bureau, including an inspection report and narrative.
And when you review that and review the report, and in this case, did you review Mr. Montoya's report pertaining to the fatality at the Rust production site on October 21st, 2021?
Yes.
And did you concur with that report?
Yes.
Did you make any changes to that report?
I'm sure that any report will go through minor editorial changes, again, to ensure that the content meets with legal sufficiency prior to issuance of a citation. So yes, I'm sure there were some minor changes that were made during the review process.
And with respect to OSHA's role in this, what exactly is it that your bureau is investigating and looking for?
Our primary purpose is to determine whether any violations of OSHA statute and regulations caused or contributed to the accident that's being investigated.
And ultimately, whose determination was it whether or not to cite Rust Productions with any violations?
It was mine.
What types of standards do you hold them to?
Well, we would, of course, look for violations of any OSHA standards that apply to the work site that's being inspected. There's a whole range of standards that apply, but we also, in addition to standards, most of which are incorporated at the state level from federal OSHA standards, but the Act itself, our governing statute, also includes general language requiring employers to provide a safe workplace.
Is there any OSHA standard specific to firearm safety on a movie set?
No.
Then do you have to look at industry standards on that?
What we look at is whether or not the hazard associated with firearms is recognized either within the industry or specifically by the employer at the work site to determine whether that employer should have or could have known about a hazardous condition and taken actions to correct that condition.
And what types of, were you provided any, or did you review any industry standards pertaining to the hazard of a firearm on a movie set in this case?
Yes, in particular, we looked at safety bulletins that are produced jointly by the industry and collective bargaining bodies that contributed to those bulletins as well.
Do you believe that the investigation that took place in this case was thorough?
Yes.
Why do you believe that?
Well, I've overseen the work of Mr. Montoya for several years leading up to this investigation. I know his work to be thorough, and in reviewing the report, I found that our investigator went to great lengths to collect as much evidence as possible prior to producing the report.
And do you happen to recall how many interviews were done in this case by you or by OSHA?
I don't recall, no.
Did you find any fault in the way the investigation was done by Mr. Montoya?
No.
My understanding is that OSHA has about 6 months to complete its investigation, and that in this case, Santa Fe Sheriff's Department hadn't provided your bureau with a copy of their report. Is that right?
That's my recollection, yes.
That report wasn't provided until after the report was issued?
I believe that's correct, yes.
So how does that, do you believe that reviewing the Santa Fe Sheriff's report is necessary to come to the findings that your office came to?
No.
Why?
Because we're looking at an employer's responsibilities specifically under the OSHA Act, which is separate from criminal law enforcement.
Right. And what are the specific, are you looking for any violations of safety rules that the employer engaged in?
Yes.
So who is it that decided to issue the citation in this case?
I did.
And what was the amount of the fine that was levied against Rust Production?
The initial proposed penalty was 130 some thousand. I don't recall the exact amount, but it was 130 some $1,000.
Okay. And how is that amount chosen?
It's based on the statutory maximum provided in the OSHA Act.
So was Rust levied the statutory maximum fine provided in the OSHA Act for its violations of workplace safety?
Yes.
No further questions.
Mr. Genoway, good morning. I suppose let's just cut to the chase here. You're not conducting a criminal investigation at OSHA, are you? No. So the things that you're looking for the purposes of your investigation may not be the same things that law enforcement may be looking for as part of their investigation, correct? I believe that to be the case. Great. You said, I know you indicated you reviewed several interviews and documentation and Mr. Montoya's report. As part of that, did you form an opinion as to whether Ms. Gutierrez's actions as an armor contributed to the breakdowns that occurred on the Rust set? No. Do you recall giving a recorded statement during a pretrial interview in this case? I don't recall being interviewed prior to trial. You don't recall giving a Zoom interview in this case on February 5th, 2004? I'm sorry, did you repeat the date? 2004? I'm sorry, 2024, February 5th, 2024. No, I don't recall that. Okay. You have no recollection of participating in Zoom interview with the counsel for the state and Scott Elliott, an investigator for Hannah Gutierrez?
No.
All right, yeah. Mr. Genoway, would it refresh your memory if I showed you a transcript of that that interview?
Might help.
May I approach?
Yeah.
The date of the interview, I don't know if this will help you, but the correct date of the interview is November 7th, 2023.
I don't recall ever doing an interview.
Okay, may I approach?
It certainly sounds like responses I would have provided, but I have to say honestly that I don't know.
Okay. I'm going to point your attention to a particular part of this interview, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. My approach.
Pages, 7 6 of our.
Guys, I was on mute. That wasn't me.
Are you asking me to read? I'm just asking you to read this right now, and then I'll ask you some questions.
Okay.
So just read through here.
And would you want me to start?
To yourself.
No,
Oh, yes, sorry, to yourself.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll start you here.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. Genoway, do you agree with me that during this interview, you agreed that Ms. Gutierrez, her actions contributed to the breakdown that occurred on the set?
Yes. Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask you a couple questions about the investigatory materials that you reviewed. You already indicated you do not have a copy of the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office report, correct?
I'm not sure whether we obtained one after issuing our citations.
And to be clear, I'm talking about as OS or OHSB conducted its investigation and issued its findings, you did not have the benefit of the Santa Fe Sheriff's Office investigatory report to assist you with that, correct?
Correct.
All right. And did you have the benefit of reviewing any behind the scenes videos that were filmed on the set of Rust?
Not that I can recall.
Do you recall if you reviewed any footage from the filming of the Rust movie cameras?
No.
Did you engage the assistance of any expert armorers for your purposes of your investigation?
We didn't engage a contract. We had some brief discussions with potential experts, but we never actually engaged those experts.
You never relied on any of their opinions to inform your investigation?
No.
Okay. I know that you were asked some questions about determining fines against employers. Is it fair to say that OSHA's purview is not to assess fines against individual employees?
That's correct.
So is it also fair to say then that even if you found that there had been some concerning conduct by an employee, you wouldn't have fined that employee, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
That's the employees don't get fined based on their activity. The employer gets fined for not training the employees properly. So that's
But would you have said in
why
your
it's
report
important.
that a specific employee failed to do something if that's what you determined?
In most cases, no.
Now, did Rust afford, in this case, the armor with sufficient time to thoroughly inventory the ammunition?
Objection.
What are we rejecting? Hold on here, guys. Oh. Hold on, I gotta 4:22 at 9 a.m. Sorry, guys, I gotta confirm this email real quick. All right.
Did the Bureau,
That looks
the
like a
OSHB
mess.
Bureau find that Rust failed to afford the armor with time to thoroughly inventory the ammunition?
I don't know if I recall that specifically. What I do recall is that our investigation determined that, from my recollection, more in general, that sufficient time for armor.
Would it
armor
refresh your
duties.
memory to look at the report?
Yes.
Page 7. Said he didn't remember.
I'm gonna check that.
Glenn said he didn't remember, and to refresh his memory, he said it would help him.
Yeah, I mean, if he says he doesn't remember, he tried to remember, but yeah, no, she's allowed to refresh it now because he said he doesn't remember. Easy peasy, squeezy deezy. Like, I understand what the problem is.
Do you remember the exact wording of the specific finding in the report pertaining to affording the armor time on inventory and ammunition?
No.
Would it refresh your memory to look at the report?
Yes.
Okay, page 7. Your Honor, may I approach? Yes. Does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Did OSHB find that Rust failed to afford the armor time to thoroughly inventory the ammunition?
Yes.
Did Rust find that, did OSHB find that Rust did not provide the armor with the authority to determine if additional training was required in violation of Rust safety procedures?
I recall that the investigation found that sufficient time wasn't provided by Rust.
It was not provided, is that what you said?
Sufficient time was not provided by Rust.
Okay, so, and were there also findings by OSHB that despite efforts by employees that Rust ignored some of the safety concerns?
Objection.
Oh, come on.
What was your understanding of the Rust findings with respect to whether safety concerns were that were brought to Rust's attention were addressed correctly?
Right. Our investigation found that Rust failed to adequately review safety oversights on the set and so that they could take necessary action to prevent recurrence.
So when you were asked on cross about a statement you gave in some pretrial interview about Ms. Gutierrez contributing to a breakdown on the set, why is it that you believe that's possible?
Well, what we would look for in an investigation is whether acts on the part of employees are preventable on the part of an employer. That's part of a determination of what we call the employer knowledge aspect of a violation. So that's why we would look at that type of information.
Okay, and in this case, did you determine whether the breakdowns from Gutierrez were due to any act of the employer?
Yes, we determined that those breakdowns were caused by failures of the employer to adequately oversee safety.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, sir, you're excused. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next witness.
Yeah, maybe approach.
All right, chat. So what do you guys think? Does any of this actually help them so far? I don't. Wait, where are they going? Did they all walk out? Oh, no, just them. Okay. Like, what's this going to do?
I'll get our next witness.
Okay. Truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat.
This
talk
will
into
be
the
interesting. I
microphone.
wonder who this is going to be.
Good morning, sir. Can you please state your name again for the jury?
Scott Elliott.
Mr. Elliott, what do you do for a living currently?
I'm currently a private investigator.
And Mr. Elliott, prior to becoming a private investigator, did you have a career in law enforcement?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the jury what your career was in law enforcement, how many years?
Military and civilian, or just?
Let's start with civilian and we'll work back.
Okay. I was hired by the Albuquerque Police Department, and I attended the academy starting in February of 1993. I retired in 2011. During that time period, I started out field services, normal uniform patrol. I went to the gang unit. Then I became a violent crimes detective in about 1995, 96. And in 1998, I became a homicide detective. And I was a homicide detective when I retired in 2011.
So, sir, you spent approximately, it sounds like 13 years in homicide division?
And part of that was interrupted by post 9/11 deployment, but yes,
At post 9/11, did you deploy overseas?
I did.
And was that part of your, we'll get into your military, part of your military duties?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Sir, how many, as part of your homicide portion of your APD employment, approximately how many investigations do you think you worked on in homicide?
As a case agent, 35 or 40, assisting on homicides, 150, 200.
And this is just homicides. You probably had 150, 200 in terms of violent crime or other types of narcotics or any types of, how many investigations do you think you've handled in the course of your police career? Do you even have an estimate?
I don't think so. I became detective in 1995, hundreds of cases a year. And then by the time I was in violent crimes, it was slightly reduced, but that was all violent crime short of homicide. So lots of those.
And you also talked about your military service. Can you tell the jury briefly about whether you had law enforcement type experience with the military?
Yes, I was commissioned in 1981 in the infantry. I spent approximately 10 years on active duty, various duties with part of the active duty time. And then I left the service in active duty in 1992 and 1993, started with the police department. Then I transferred into the reserves. In Albuquerque, there was not an infantry unit anywhere nearby. So I was an engineer officer for a little while, and then I became a secondary specialty of military policeman. And I worked in those functions until I transferred from the Army in 2003 to the Air Force. When I transferred to the Air Force, I took command of what's called a heavy weapons squadron, which was a security forces unit, which is Air Force police. The difference with that unit is that they had weapon systems that are normally found in the Army, mortars, snipers, grenade launchers, things like that. So my prior Army career folded right into that unit and its mission.
So, sir, you've conducted investigations, both civilian and military environments. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, and Your Honor, at this time, I tender Mr. Elliott as an expert in quality of investigations, law enforcement investigations.
I'm sorry, what was, I didn't understand the first thing you said, Mr. Johnson.
Oh, sure, the quality of law enforcement investigations.
No objection.
All right, he's an expert, as described.
Mr. Elliott, can you tell the jury specifically, what did you do in this particular case? Just an overview scope.
Well, I reviewed all the discovery, all the reports, videos, any documentation, any evidence that included going and physically looking at the evidence in this case. In addition to that, I interviewed the majority of the state's witnesses in what's called pretrial interviews. I think the only ones I didn't interview were the FBI employees.
Your call ballpark, how many interviews you conducted in this case, just an approximate?
35, 40 maybe.
And in terms of the reports, did you review voluminous reports in this case as well?
Yes, I did.
And have you, as an expert, also made some conclusions based on your review of the materials, your interviews, and what you've seen in this case?
I did.
Okay. I don't want to hit every point that you might make, but I want to hit some of the major ones. First of all, at the scene, at the initial scene when law enforcement responds, can you tell the jury, do you have any conclusions about the quality of the investigation by the sheriffs at the scene?
Yeah, some of that was reached by my own observations and some of it through interviews of the deputies on the scene. I felt like their response was probably not what it should be. There were hundreds of people on that ranch. But if you narrow it down to who was in the church at the time of the shooting and who may have had involvement with the case, for example, the people that are just outside, there was really about 20 people. The first responding deputies, their job is first preservation of life, and then it is preservation of evidence and identifying witnesses and possible suspects. In this case, it was known very quickly who the shooter was, but it wasn't known who the witnesses were. And those witnesses, once they were identified, they should have been segregated so they couldn't talk among themselves.
So let me stop you right there. When you initially, as a law enforcement homicide detective or somebody going on scene, you identify the shooter, what in your opinion is one of the first things that you should do?
Well, the first thing you do is put someone with that individual, segregate them from everyone else. You also want to, those individuals, since you are preserving evidence, you also want to secure their cell phones.
Now, in this case, in the materials you reviewed, did it appear to you that Mr. Baldwin was segregated?
Not at all.
And along with the conclusion you just stated, did it appear that his cell phone was taken from him?
No, it was not.
Mr. Elliott, did it appear to you that at any time at the scene that day, Mr. Baldwin was segregated?
He was not.
Okay. Next, you talked about identifying key witnesses and preserving evidence. Can you explain that a little more?
Yes. Well, the scene was secured. You don't often have a scene of that small of an environment. It was known immediately that the shooting occurred inside that church structure, and that it probably involved a couple of people just outside doing that weapons cart. So that was the immediate concern, that area there. And the deputies, one of the early responding deputies did get a pretty good list of who was in the church and gave that to the lieutenant. But those individuals were not segregated from everybody else. They were able to mingle with people who were not on scene, who were in a different part of the ranch. Conversations were taking place. People were talking on cell phones. And it's really unknown who they were talking to.
And what is the danger or what is the concern on the part of an investigator when suspects or witnesses are talking?
Well, a couple things. One, people could be getting their story straight. The other is it causes witnesses to misremember what they did and what they saw. Because in my experience, good, honest citizens try to help. And they'll tell you something that their neighbor told them as if it was something that they saw. And it is just human nature that if you talk about something over and over and over again, eventually there are parts of it that you think that you did, and it was what someone else did. So you want to clean, even if it's very brief and they didn't see very much or they didn't hear very much, you want a clean statement of what their knowledge is.
Okay. And with regard to whether, if that is not done, what can that lead to? What is your conclusion about what can happen if people are not segregated and they're allowed to talk to people?
Well, one, you can delete things off your phone. You can delete photos. It wasn't known at the time if somebody was videotaping what was going on inside on their phone. That's possible. Almost every case you work now, someone has videotaped it with their phone.
Did you also determine, and this is another point, but that someone had left the scene and whether that person had been identified?
As far as I know, they still have not been identified.
With regard to securing the prop guard on that scene, what is your opinion as to whether that was appropriately handled?
No, it should have remained in place. There was an individual, Brian, was told to go get the cart. He went out of sight behind the church, on the other side of the church, and then he moved the cart around towards the lieutenant's marked unit. That should not have been done.
As well, what is your opinion as to or do you have any concerns about how the evidence on top of the prop cart was handled?
Well, Lieutenant Benavides took possession of the firearm with an ungloved hand, and he grabbed it right around the cylinder. So the largest portion of the revolver is how he picked up the revolver, put it into his vehicle, at another occasion pulled it out of his vehicle and put it back on the cart. He did the same thing with the ammo boxes from the cart. So you definitely can't preserve evidence by touching things with your bare hands, but it also could have damaged anything that was on the boxes or the firearm prior to him handling it.
Now, working our way through this, and you may be aware that there was evidence there were rounds thrown away in the course of your investigation. Do you have any concerns at this point with how the police responded to that? The sheriff's responded to that matter?
Well, it's my understanding that they were notified quite late. I think it was a month later. But I didn't see any attempt to go out and see if they were still in trash at the ranch.
And is that something in your normal investigation, when you were doing homicide investigation, you want to collect all of the potential evidence?
Well, in this case, there's a couple things. The law enforcement was told almost immediately, this was the firearm used. But the projectile can't be matched to a firearm. And I know there were at least 3 .45 long Colt revolvers on that cart that day. So although The casing has been tested to match the firearm that was presented to law enforcement. There's no way to know that projectile positively came from that firearm.
Along with the rounds that were thrown away, did you have any other concerns on the follow-up with regard to identifying the source of that live round or live rounds that appeared on set?
That didn't seem to be followed up on very strongly. It's a little confusing when rounds came onto the set or the scene, the ranch, and who brought them. It seemed that there were a number of times that, at least one occasion, I thought it was more, that Sarah went to PDQ in Albuquerque and brought ammo back. There was the initial ammo provided by PDQ, and then there was some ammo provided by Ms. Gutierrez.
And did you identify any other investigative steps that you think should have been taken to try to further look into the source of the live rounds?
Well, there's a lot of talk about the white boxes with the JS. That individual has never been interviewed, the producer of the ammunition. So there really was no backtracking of where the ammo came from. You can't say this ammo on the prop cart definitively where it came from. You can't say the ammunition in the prop truck definitively where it came from. There should have been more work done in that area.
And when you're in a situation like this as a former homicide detective, when you're trying to trace the root cause of tragic situation that's occurred, is that something that would be important to you to find out where the live round originated from?
Yes, this case is also a little unusual in the sense that it wasn't really a who done it. It was a why done it and how done it. By that I mean, you don't know anybody there. You go out as an investigator, you're trying to find out what happened. Was there an argument on set? Was somebody angry? Did somebody have a mental break? Is there some underlying relationship that may have been the root cause of the shooting? You don't know. And that's why an investigation is conducted, to find out those things. And it's also to trace how.
Guys, Morgan & Morgan's a large personal injury law firm out of Florida.
That firearm came to be where it came to be.
Okay, sir. And with regard to the search of the prop truck that occurred after the 21st, on the 27th, did you have any concerns with the delay in that search warrant?
Oh, absolutely. There were firearms missing from the weapons cart. They had been moved from between the shooting and the arrival of law enforcement, and they were moved into the safe, into the prop truck. That should have been part of an expanding scene. Like I said, you had the church and the area immediately outside of it, but as soon as it became known the prop truck had an involvement with that shooting, the prop truck should have been secured, just like you saw the scene, crime scene tape, deputy placed there, nobody allowed in the truck until such time as you do a search warrant.
In addition, with regard to the search warrant of Seth Kinney's business, PDQ Props, did you have any concerns about the delay of approximately a month in searching that business?
Oh, of course. A delay of a few days could be an issue, but a month is, you could do anything in a month.
And from your review of records in this case, was it ascertainable that Mr. Kinney was one of the suppliers of ammunition to Rust?
I think it was known almost immediately, both by the people at the scene and Mr. Kinney himself.
With respect to that delay in search warrant, there's some obvious things I think that would be apparent to anybody. But why is that an issue? What are the primary issues that you want to do to try to secure a home and search it right away, secure a business, search it right away? What are the reasons?
Well, it's preservation of evidence. If no one can get inside the business, then no one can tamper with anything that's inside. And you hope to get everything as it was as soon as you can, without any type of alteration.
With regard to Mr. Kinney, did you also have any concerns about collection of DNA, fingerprints, things like that?
I did. Those things can be used for elimination or positively identifying someone. In the case of Mr. Kinney, if they had his major case prints and had his DNA, and none of it was found on the boxes of ammunition, then it would eliminate him as somebody possibly being involved.
In your opinion, and your experience as an investigator, would this have been something that you would expect to have been done, that the supplier of ammunition to Rust, that he would also be looked at in that respect?
Yes, considering the environment and the fact that there should not have been live rounds on set.
Now, with regard to Mr. Kinney, did you also determine whether his phone had been seized to be extracted or whether that had been fully extracted?
It was not. His phone was never.
What is your opinion on that potential or that fact that his phone was never taken for extraction?
The contact between Sarah Zachary and he almost immediately after the shooting warranted that.
And are you speaking about the phone call right after the shooting where we heard testimony and there was a text emergency? Is that the time frame you're talking about?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And are you also aware that there were a number of calls that Seth Kenny, other calls that he was making in contact with Sarah Zachary?
Dozens of calls.
In your opinion, to do a complete investigation, to get the facts out, to get the truth on the table, was that something that you would expect to be done, that they fully investigate Seth Kenny?
Objection.
Sir, would you have expected, in your experience as a homicide detective, a full investigation of Mr. Kenny?
Yes, especially considering that Sarah Zachary worked for him.
Did you also have any concerns about the failure to obtain Mr. Baldwin's phone early on and what happened after that?
As I said before, that would have been an immediate. Every deputy should have known that as soon as he was identified as being the shooter. And then my understanding is that he left the state with it, and that forensic analysis was done in New York. I should correct myself. The extraction was done in New York.
And do you have any knowledge of whether all of the contents were obtained off of Mr. Baldwin's phone?
I have no way of knowing that.
We talked about the scene, some search warrants. We talked about phones, fingerprints, DNA. Did you have any other opinions or concerns about the quality of this investigation?
One aspect of it that's still kind of a mystery to me is when the lieutenant arrived on the scene, first two things he asked for was the gun and the armor. So that was a little unusual. He didn't seem to be the least concerned of who the shooter was and what that individual's status was. He placed Ms. Gutierrez into his marked unit, which is pretty common, also considering that she had some anxiety issues and so on. But it immediately became clear she was not free to leave. Whenever the lieutenant would leave his vehicle, he'd tell the deputy to keep an eye on her. When Detective Hancock got to the scene, she almost immediately took charge of Hannah, to include going to the bathroom with her. So she clearly was not free to leave. Every other individual on that ranch was free to walk around, talk to anyone, talk on their phone, do anything they wanted to do, except Ms. Gutierrez.
Now, you talked about some anxiety and this situation. In your experience, do you have any concerns about interviewing someone in the immediate aftermath of a traumatic situation?
Objection.
Hey, Chad, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Oh, here, we'll skip this real quick.
Law enforcement, have you
I mean, are you he's telling us all the stuff we've already known they're picking holes at. None of this is like, oh, Hannah's not guilty.
encountered situations where people have been interviewed in traumatic situations?
Yes, I have.
And have you personally been involved in that?
I have.
And can you tell the jury, do you have any concerns regarding interviewing an individual right after a traumatic situation?
Yes. It probably would have started with an EMT or paramedic checking her to see if she was okay, see what her status was health-wise. Whether she was having, hyperventilating or whatever symptoms or anxiety had, to make sure she was okay that way. Because of confessions and the way those things can go, you're extra careful to make sure that someone is not in a state that can later be determined not to be a good mental state. And all your work in that confession or that statement is not admissible. So you try to avoid that if you can.
And you said that you would have that person looked at in those situations by an EMT or a medical?
Yes.
What is the purpose of that again?
Again, it's just to make sure that she's in a state where she can, or the individual's in a state where they can talk to you. You want them to be as accurate as they can also. So if that causes a little bit of a delay before you can interview them, and they're still willing to be interviewed, you may get a more accurate statement from them.
Okay, thank you. And any other concerns about this investigation we haven't hit on, Mr. Elliott? You may have stated them all. I just wanted to ask if there's anything else.
I don't think so.
Okay. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-exam.
Mr. Elliott, isn't it true that you are the defense investigator on this case?
It's true.
You work for Mr. Bowles and Ms. Gutierrez, and they are paying you.
That's correct.
And as a person who is employed as the defense investigator, it is your job to aid in her defense. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Now, you seem to take issue with the fact that Lieutenant Benavides touched the firearm with his ungloved hand. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
But you agree with me that unlike a lot of homicides or shootings, this one occurred in the presence of upwards of a dozen people.
That's true.
So there was not going to be any mystery as to who had the gun and who pulled the trigger, correct?
To that aspect, no.
You seem to take issue with the fact that the projectile in this case can't be matched to the firearm, right?
Only in the sense that to confirm that the firearm presented to law enforcement was the actual firearm. It doesn't really change what happened.
But where's the controversy? What do you have some information that the jury hasn't heard that the gun that was fired by Mr. Baldwin is actually not the gun that was used? I haven't come across that. Have you?
No, I was referring to when officers arrived at the scene, they didn't know that other than what one person told them.
Okay, but it turned out to be true. There's no controversy. The gun that was used in the shooting is the gun that was in Mr. Baldwin's hand, right?
True.
Okay, and the reason that the projectile can't be matched to the firearm is because the projectile went through two people, and it was so heavily damaged because it went through two human beings. There wasn't enough marking to match it to the bore of the gun. Isn't that true?
That's true.
Now, in terms of fingerprints and DNA on the ammunition box, sir, did you watch the video where Ms. Gutierrez actually says to Mr. Benavides, "This is the box I was pulling from"?
Yes, I did.
And that box is taken and put into Mr. Benavides' patrol unit, correct?
The lieutenant placed it in his vehicle, yes.
Right. So where's the controversy in terms of what box she was pulling from?
Part of it was to find where the live ammo originated. That information may have been on the outside of the box. Could have had Seth Kenny's DNA, could have had Seth Kenny's fingerprints, or anyone else where the box came from originally.
But sir, didn't you watch the second interview with Ms. Gutierrez where she actually held up a photograph for Corporal Hancock and said, "This is a picture of our boxes of dummies," and not coincidentally, it matched identically to the box that she identified as the box that she was pulling rounds from that day. You watched that interview, didn't you?
Objection.
All right, we're going to take our lunch break. Please be back by 1:30. Please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Thank you.
All rise.
Hey everybody, Law and Crime's Jesse Weber here. Thank you so much for watching our coverage of the Rust trial of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. You know, this case makes me think about how people get hurt in all kinds of situations that should not happen. And if you do get injured, it is so important to know your rights and whether you should be compensated. That's why I want to highlight the official sponsor of this week's live trial coverage, Morgan & Morgan. They are actually the largest injury law firm in the whole country. And if you're going to take on big insurance, insurance companies that often lowball.
All right, Chad. Sorry about that. Had to go to the bathroom. All right. I thought I beat them back. So let's time travel here. They're gone for a long. Holy gee, how long is their lunch? Their lunch is. It starts at 2 hours and 38 minutes. Okay. And we're down to like hour and 15. Like, damn. $90-minute lunch. Oh my God. I wonder if somebody went on. Wow. We're going to catch up in no time. So. You missed the prosecuting that witness to Manslaughter. Oh, I'm sure they did. I'm sure I was waiting for it. I'm sure there's going to be more to it. This guy wasn't impressive to start with because once again, they're trying to say other people messed up. And okay, great. Other people may have messed up, but I'm sure that, none of that changes whether or not Hannah did anything. And like, this is going back once again. Oh, they didn't protect the scene, so like somebody could have messed with it. Once again, had Hannah not done her job, this wouldn't have been an issue. So I don't know how that helps them. I don't know how this helps. This is almost just goofiness. So, yes, tacos take a while. Well, it is Tuesday. Yeah, look at their faces. He's like, oh, God, my butthole. And she's like, you have no idea. I'm got bubble guts. Well, I ran through the house to get here. So, because I had it on my phone. So, let's see what happens. Oh, let's see how bad Carrie puts it to this guy.
What you're saying?
Yes, because she's not the one that handed the gun to Mr. Baldwin. There are people in between that process. So.
Continue, sir. I apologize.
Right. Again, pieces of information come out as they're going through both processing the scene and interviewing people.
What the fuck just happened? Not enough memory to open this page. What the fuck happened?
Remember the
That
press
was
in the little hole in the bottom.
That was
of the
weird.
Brass you're holding. This press has a big lever. It has a special pin designed for
Ooh,
that
what the
cartridge
fuck just
to remove
happened?
the primer.
It just told me I didn't have enough memory to keep going on like Google right here, and all the pages crashed. So let's try again.
Concerns are in that regard. Would you articulate them for us again?
Yes, I was referring to the concerns that a detective would have upon arriving at scene. You don't have at the time, the results
This is the defense's private investigator, their detective.
of lab testing. So, and you have nothing guaranteed.
What do you mean nothing guaranteed?
Well, at the time you had some people saying this is the gun, but you didn't have any evidence, scientific evidence showed that was the gun, which was later found to be true. I'm just talking about, you have so many variables and so many unknowns that you can only use interviews on the scene to confirm and deny things. One person saying this is the gun, that may very well be the gun. But you have to see if someone else can verify that. Later on, you're going to have lab results, not at the time. And that's what I was referring to, is at the time, at the scene on October 21st.
So what's your concern then about the investigation that the Sheriff's Department did with regard to the gun? Is your testimony that after Ms. Gutierrez identified the gun to Lieutenant Benavides and handed him the gun, there should have been more follow-up with regard to whether or not that was really the gun? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because she's not the one that handed the gun to Mr. Baldwin. There are people in between that process. So
Continue, sir. I
all right.
apologize.
Again, pieces of information come out as they're going through both processing the scene and interviewing people. And now we know that there is some time delay between the firearm being loaded, the firearm being on the cart, the firearm making it to Mr. Baldwin inside the church. And that's what I meant by the investigation at the time. A lot of information is coming out over months. Some information has come much later.
But you agree with me that Ms. Gutierrez handed Lieutenant Benavides the gun and said, this is the gun that was being used. And when she said that, she had been identified as the armor on the movie set. You agree with that?
I do.
And you also agree that, not surprisingly, that turned out to be the gun. You agree with that?
Oh, I do, yes.
So any potential issues with regard to that specific concern of yours didn't turn out to be issues. There's no issue. You agree with that? This is the gun that fired that projectile.
Correct, yes.
Okay. When we left off, there was an objection, and I'm going to go through with you. You were talking about the ammo boxes. I think that was where the objection was. So, as the investigator in this case, have you reviewed all of the body-worn camera footage?
I have. There's a lot.
So have I.
Yes.
I'm sympathetic to the exhausted look on your face. I'm going to show you what has been marked as what is already in evidence as State's Exhibit 192. Sir, have you seen this exhibit?
I have.
And you agree with me that this is Lieutenant Benavides is pointing to the box that Ms. Gutierrez identified as the box that she was pulling ammunition from. Do you agree with that?
He is pointing to a box of ammunition, yes.
Are you indicating that you believe that the box here in this picture was not the box that she was pulling ammunition from?
No, I'm not. There were two boxes, and I don't know if it was clearly delineated to him which of the two boxes was where the ammo was drawn from.
Well, you understood that the gun was loaded with dummies, or was supposed to be loaded with dummies at the time of the incident, right?
Right.
And you also understand that this was the only box of dummies on the cart. You understand that, right?
Yes.
The other boxes were blanks, correct?
Correct.
And Ms. Gutierrez said to Lieutenant Benavides, this is the box I was pulling from, right?
Yes.
You don't think that Ms. Gutierrez meant to say I was pulling from a box of blanks when the gun was loaded with supposed dummies, do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Oh. Oh.
State's Exhibit 62. Have you seen
God, she just got him real good. That was bad.
this photo?
I probably have hundreds of photos of white boxes, but I can't
That
specifically say this photo.
does the box on the left, does that label look familiar to you in your investigation in this case?
It does.
So based on your investigation, do you have any reason to believe that the box that Ms. Gutierrez pointed out to Lieutenant Benavides is not this box that he took and placed in his unit?
I do not. And I believe that photo is taken in the unit, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I can see the seat.
State's Exhibit 63. You understand that this is a photo of that exact same box when it was taken into evidence at the Sheriff's Department, right?
Yes, how it's labeled, yes.
I'm not asking how it's labeled. You've reviewed the evidence at the evidence room, right?
Yes,
And you've reviewed all the photographs that were taken on scene.
yes.
Let me ask you, isn't it true that there was only one box found with this label? Isn't that correct?
That I don't know.
You're the defense investigator on this case, right?
Yes.
Have you seen photographs of a box that looks like this, but is loaded with something other than what this box was loaded with? Sir, do you have any reason to believe that there were two boxes with this label that were taken into evidence?
I do not know.
State's Exhibit 69. Have you seen this photo?
Again, I've seen dozens of photos. So.
Well, you're here to give an opinion about the investigation on this case. Are you not familiar with this photograph?
Specifically, no.
Okay. Did you watch the interview in November that Ms. Gutierrez gave to Detective Hancock?
I did.
And do you recall during that interview, Ms. Gutierrez holds up her phone and says, "This is a picture of our dummies," meaning the dummies that she would bring on the set. Do you recall that?
I do recall that, yes.
Isn't this the photo that she showed? You don't know?
Not at this point, no.
Okay. You weren't watching the testimony of our
She's kicking his ass, though. It doesn't matter.
expert, Mr. Hawks, when he laid the foundation for this and indicated that this photograph was sent from a contact in her phone named Dad Kula to her the day before the interview with Detective Hancock. Were you not aware of that?
I was not, no.
So, sir, based on Ms. Gutierrez's statements, would it be her own statements to law enforcement, would it be reasonable for law enforcement to believe that State's Exhibit 62, this box here in the foreground, is indeed the box she was pulling from because she said that? Wouldn't that be reasonable for law enforcement to believe that?
Yes, it would.
And you understand that that box was determined to have a live round?
Yes.
And you agree with me that that box that had the live round matches this photo that was shown to Detective Hancock during the November 9th interview? You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Sir, do you still have questions and concerns about how the live rounds got on set?
I do.
You don't think that law enforcement can simply take Ms. Gutierrez's word for it, that this is her box and this is the one she was pulling from and this is the one where live rounds were found?
Yes, but what we don't know is how many times those boxes were unloaded and reloaded. Every time that one of the firearms were loaded with dummy rounds, they came out of a box. They didn't necessarily go back into the same box.
Do you agree with me, sir, that there are certain things in homicide investigations that just simply can't be controlled for? You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
They hired this guy. Once again, Hannah could have got the public defender because it doesn't like they have very much money. And the public defender would have had their own private investigator.
Sir, what's the smallest police department you've ever worked for?
Albuquerque PD.
You agree with me that the Albuquerque Police Department is approximately 10 times the size of the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Department with regard to the number of commissioned officers?
I am. I think Albuquerque is around 850, and I think Santa Fe's 120, 130, something like that.
Okay. More than 8 times.
Right.
You agree with that math?
I do.
Have you ever worked on a homicide investigation on a movie set?
I have not.
Do you agree with me that normally in homicide investigations, police aren't concerned with where the live ammo came from? This case is unique in that regard, isn't it?
This case is unique from the beginning, yes.
Okay, it is,
Yes.
right? It's
Mhm.
unique from the beginning. So police officers, you would agree, are not trained in how to investigate homicides on movie sets where they're not supposed to have live rounds, they're supposed to have fake rounds. Cops aren't trained in that, right?
Specifically, no.
Okay. And you agree with me, don't you, that Lieutenant Benavides can't just let Ms. Gutierrez walk around the movie set with a firearm that appears to have just shot 2 people. You agree with that?
Oh, I do agree with that with reference to firearm, yes.
Yeah. It was incumbent on Lieutenant Benavides to remove that firearm from her possession, correct?
From anyone's possession, yes.
And you just take issue with the fact that he didn't put a glove on before he did it.
Basically, yes.
But you agree that the fact that he didn't put a glove on didn't turn out to create any significant evidentiary issues in this case because everybody knew who was holding the gun and everybody knew who shot the gun. You agree with that?
I do.
And sir, you also agree with me, don't you, that a police officer's first responsibility is to save human lives, not collect evidence?
Correct, as I stated, yes.
And do you recall that Ms. Gutierrez was actually checked by EMTs when she was sitting in the back of Lieutenant Benavides's patrol unit?
Yes, I did see that.
And you agree that she was allowed to make phone calls?
Yes, she was.
I think you indicated that you talked a little bit about that Detective Hancock sort of took possession of Ms. Gutierrez. Do you recall the statement that you made in that regard?
I do.
So I want to ask you, and one of the examples you gave was that Detective Hancock even accompanied Ms. Gutierrez to the restroom, right?
Yes, she did.
But in watching the body-worn camera footage, isn't it true that Sergeant Christopher Zook tells Detective Hancock, she doesn't want to go to the bathroom alone. Will you take her to the bathroom? Ms. Gutierrez actually asks to be accompanied to the bathroom. Do you recall that?
I do.
And do you agree with me that it was Ms. Gutierrez who asked to be placed in Detective Hancock's patrol unit? That wasn't something that the police just unilaterally did with her.
No, she did. She did ask.
Is there a problem with them granting her request that she be accompanied to the bathroom?
No, but I didn't think that included going into the bathroom with her. Can I elaborate?
Sure.
I believe she stated something along the lines of she didn't want to talk to anyone from production. So it's kind of like if she was with Detective Hancock, she wouldn't be approached by any of her coworkers. I think that was her intention of being escorted. But I didn't think it included going into the bathroom itself.
Well, she went into the bathroom and she had her back turned to Ms. Gutierrez. What's the big deal? Ms. Gutierrez asked for an escort. How did that hurt the investigation?
Hurt the investigation?
Yeah.
It did not.
Oh, God.
Now, Ms. Gutierrez stayed on set and she was sitting in a police car with the door open, and there was a coworker of hers sitting in there visiting with her. You agree with that?
Yes, I do.
And she had her phone. You agree with that?
Yes,
She was allowed to make phone calls.
yes,
She was never placed in handcuffs. You agree with that?
correct.
So what's problematic about that? How was she mistreated by police?
I didn't say she was mistreated. It was every appearance of not being free to leave. I based that on the fact that when Lieutenant Benavides would step away from his vehicle, he would tell a deputy to keep an eye on her. If she's free to leave and she's just sitting in the back of the unit with an open door, she should be allowed to walk away if she wanted to. It gives the impression that she is in custody
And the
when
fair
you're not free from
and the honest thing is, if she tried to walk away, they would stop. They would have stopped her.
constant observation from law enforcement.
Well, but isn't it true that she seemed to be having a panic attack, and it was appropriate for Lieutenant Benavides, when he walked away, to ask another officer to keep an eye on her, to make sure she's okay? Isn't that true?
At that time, she appeared fine.
Did she? Is that a yes?
That's a yes.
So was it your expectation that Mr. Baldwin should have been detained? Do you believe that they should have detained him?
I do.
And do you believe that they should have put him in a police car and taken his phone away?
Not necessarily placed in a police car, but he should have been segregated from the other witnesses, and his phone should have been taken to preserve evidence.
Don't you agree with me that there has to be probable cause that there may be evidence on the phone before the phone can be taken?
But they wouldn't know if there was going to be evidence on the phone without interviewing him. There was no other way to know whether there was evidence on that phone or not. But he was on the phone when law enforcement arrived. So who was he talking to?
Well, did you look at his call logs?
That's after the fact. I'm talking about when deputies arrived at the scene.
Okay, I appreciate that. But what I'm trying to figure out is, what about your concerns actually turned out to be real issues with the investigation? What evidence was missing or hidden by Mr. Baldwin? What evidence do you have?
We don't have the full contents of his phone.
Has the defense filed any kind of a motion in this case to try to get the full contents of his phone?
That I don't know.
And you understand, though, that a full extraction of Mr. Baldwin's phone was done in New York, but we were given a limited report. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
And you also understand that originally the same thing happened with Ms. Gutierrez. A limited report was generated from a full extraction, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you agree with me that defense counsel is free to issue subpoenas and file motions to compel and do all of those things in a case if they feel that they're missing evidence?
Yes, I'm aware of that.
So do you think that it would have been appropriate then for law enforcement to take Ms. Gutierrez's phone away from her and not let her make a phone call to her mother?
That can be monitored also. I've seen it done both ways. I've seen them taken away where they're not allowed to make any phone calls. And I've also seen where they've been able to make a call in the presence of law enforcement.
Sir, generally, in your experience as a law enforcement officer, do you usually continue to investigate an individual for a crime after you have, let's say for months, after you have been unable to develop a single lead that that person was involved? Do you need me to rephrase that question?
I think I understand your question. You're saying, do you continue an investigation of someone that you have no information?
Yeah, right. You looked, you executed a search warrant, you interviewed the person numerous times, and you just simply don't have any evidence that they were involved. At some point, don't they just not become a suspect anymore?
I don't know if that's the correct phrase, but
What
your
would be correct?
your investigation is over. You've taken the investigation as far as you can go.
Right.
Right.
So at some point with Mr. Kinney, they executed a search warrant, they interviewed him numerous times, and they didn't come up with anything. So what do you think they should have done to continue?
At that point, there wasn't much further they could go.
And sir, are you aware that the FBI will not do DNA testing on rounds, whether they're spent or unspent? Were you aware of that?
I heard about it in this case, but they have done DNA testing on casings, unspent casings.
Well, weren't you present? Were you present for a pretrial interview of the DNA expert in this case?
I was.
And you heard her during the interview state that they won't do this kind of DNA testing, correct?
I did.
All right. And you agree with me, sir, that police officers, when they arrived on scene, they knew immediately who the shooter was?
I think that information arrived shortly after the first deputies arrived, but it was before the lieutenant arrived. There's a little lag there, but not much time at all.
Okay, and Mr. Baldwin didn't leave the scene, did he?
He did not.
You testified on direct examination that there was a person who left the scene that was never identified. Do you recall making that statement?
I did, and that was based on what came out of some of the interviews. I don't quite recall. I think the lieutenant asked if we had everybody. And
What lieutenant are you
Lieutenant
talking?
Benavides.
Okay.
And one of the deputies responded with one left. And I think he asked who that was, and the deputy didn't know.
But you know, don't you? Because you interviewed him and you asked him. Didn't you interview Reed Russell? And when you interviewed Reed Russell, he told you that he left so that he could go to the hospital to be with his close friends. And before he left, he gave all of his contact information to the police. You interviewed him. Do you recall that?
I did.
Do you need to see a copy of the interview?
I don't.
And you also understand that Mr. Russell, who left the scene to go to the hospital, was interviewed the very next day by Detective Cano. Aren't you aware of that?
I am, yes.
So what's the mystery? Who's the mystery man that left the set? He was identified, right? Correct?
Mr. Russell was identified, but I was never quite clear if it was the same individual.
Even though you asked him and he said, I'm the guy that left the set to go to the hospital?
Yes, but did he know he was the only one who left?
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott. I'll pass the witness.
Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Elliott, you're aware from all your experience in law enforcement that it is the government's burden to prove in any criminal case, correct? And that burden never shifts to the defendant.
That's correct, yes.
So when you were asked earlier about why the defense didn't file motions and do subpoenas, isn't that law enforcement and the government's job to prove their case?
Objection.
He's going with that, but I don't think it's going to work, chat. Like, I know what he's trying to say there, but I just don't think that's enough.
Burden to prove. Recall that question?
Ooh, it got
Okay. And
objection
is it
overruled.
always the government's burden to prove their case, to prove in a criminal case?
It is.
Okay. Now, if law enforcement doesn't timely and appropriately obtain evidence, does that sometimes impact an entire investigation?
It can.
For example, in your experience as a homicide detective and working in civilian and military law enforcement, if you delay a search warrant for a month, can that materially impact a case?
It can.
And in your experience, have you seen times when there's been that kind of delay where evidence goes missing?
I have.
You talked earlier about the FBI and other cases you had been aware of where they had obtained DNA. You did not expand on that. Have you been aware of other cases in which the FBI has searched for DNA on casings?
The Las Vegas shooting.
So based on that answer, is it your understanding they do have the capacity, the ability to do that?
They do have the ability, yes.
Earlier, you were asked a series of questions about, I'm going to categorize them as no harm, no foul. In other words, we know in hindsight now that certain things didn't happen. But in any case, homicide investigation, would you always want to start out assuming that anything can go wrong and to properly preserve that evidence?
Yes, of course.
For example, with regard to the firearm, when you testified about Lieutenant Benavides touching that firearm, would there be scenarios, not like it played out here, but where somebody else turned out to be the shooter, for example, and that firearm, it was important to know the fingerprints?
Well, of course. This investigation started with a 911 call. They are not always accurate.
And so I guess my question to you is, in your experience and your training and 13 years as homicide, were you taught and trained to preserve evidence and to take those appropriate steps in every single case?
Yes.
We were asked earlier a series of questions about Ms. Gutierrez-Reed and whether she was there voluntarily or the appearance of being detained. Did the sheriffs drive Ms. Gutierrez-Reed to the sheriff's office?
Yes, they did.
Did they drive Mr. Baldwin to the sheriff's office?
No, he drove himself and followed a deputy.
Okay. From the time that Ms. Gutierrez-Reed was in the vehicle on the set to the time of the interview, did you ever notice any period of time when she was not in law enforcement presence?
I did not.
With regard to the questions about items and boxes on the prop card that you were asked, the 2 boxes, is it clear to you from reading the reports, everything that you reviewed in this case, what items Sarah and the other 2 individuals may have removed from the prop card and taken to the prop truck?
No, it is not clear to me.
And based on your entire review of the whole case, has there ever been any follow-up or any information you've received that would have clarified that, what they took from the prop card?
No, a vague, couple long guns. I think 2 revolvers, they do know who they came from. And other items that I don't know of.
One last question. If law enforcement delays, if they do not conduct a full investigation, possible for the defense to lose out on evidence that may have been exculpatory.
Yes, there is.
I have no further questions.
You're excused, thank you. Next witness.
Your Honor, we call Frank Kusi.
Sorry, chat. We're gonna. Oh, who's this guy? Who's this guy? Something's up. Somebody's got something under his belt. King Blunder. Yeah, this guy wasn't very good. I was gonna lose a shit with the expert defense calls. I bet I will. I bet I will, guys. Well, here's the thing, Robert. We'll go back to this. Alec Baldwin gave an interview with George Stephanopoulos saying, like, I'm a classically trained actor. And when I came up, they said you have to know how to do things. You got to know how to do Shakespeare. You got to ride a horse, sword fight, and handle a gun. He's like, I know how to do all of those things. I've been classically trained. Alec knows enough about guns. He's done enough about guns. I mean, he's done a million movies with guns. She was really failed by her mentors. Well, I mean, did she really fail her did her mentors fail her, or did she fail them? I mean, it sounds like she was like a self-important, Dunning-Kruger dumb fuck. She's so like, my daddy. And she thought that was good enough for herself. So Ron says, is there any case close to this case? Not really. I mean, there isn't a history of this anywhere else, really. This is a very unique situation. I mean, there's nothing like this ever. This honestly, Ron, like in law school, you get like questions in your finals class, and this would be one of them. This would be like the criminal law finals question. All this shit goes wrong, and you have to identify all the parties that are liable and for what. And if you can argue both ways of it, you do whatever you can to argue it out. But yeah, this is not abnormal. So it's interesting, isn't it? Let's see what happens with this guy. Well, the Crow isn't even close. The Crow is not even close. The Crow is not even close to this. Because the Crow, once again, remember, that was a gun that everybody thought was broken, but it turns out was actually live. And that was just people being ignorant. This one is straight up Hannah just being a fucking idiot. Everybody else was too, but Hannah really was a fucking moron. So here we go. But I do wonder what this thingy is. That looks like part of a Sam Brown belt, which means there might be like a little thingy right here, which I'm surprised we're doing that. Or maybe he's got like an oxygen tank or something. I don't know. Who knows? All right, here we go.
Stand before the judge, raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat talking to the microphone. Thank you.
Okay, sir, good afternoon. Can you please tell the jury your name again?
Frank Lewis Blair Kuski III,
Where do you currently reside?
Carmel Valley, California.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm managing director of Blair Financial Group, money managers.
Don't you, outside of your management and
What? Fuck is this guy?
Blair Financial, to tell the jury about your experience with period firearms.
Yes. Prior to, let me check a note to make sure dates are correct.
Wait. That's his CV is a bunch of scribbled out fucking legal pad pages? That's his CV? It's not typed up or nothing? Oh, fuck. This ain't good already, chat. This ain't good already. This ain't good. This ain't good. This ain't good. Holy shit. Holy shit. Holy shit. You guys are like, wait. It's like, I'm fine, but I'm noticing the bad things already.
took part in my first movies in this, which were done with.
And I'm not talking about the movies. Let me just.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, let me just try to center my question.
I'm still objecting.
Okay.
Yeah, she's objecting. Like, what the fuck is he reading off of? That's bundle of papers he's got all crumpled up there.
Yeah.
And what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm managing director of Blair Financial Group, money managers. Prior to.
Hold on, sorry.
And I'm not talking about the movies. I want to go just give the jury an overview of your experience with firearms, and not necessarily getting into movies yet, but your experience with firearms and period firearms and how you obtain that familiarity.
Do you wish for the long explanation or the short?
No, the short. The short's always better.
My father was a combat MP in the Second World War. I was shooting almost from birth. I was sent to rifle camp in Butte, Montana at age 6, which is hard to imagine. I grew up around a hunting family. My grandfather was a big time hunter. I grew up hunting deer and pheasants with my uncle in the forests of Ohio. I had Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania hunting licenses ever since they were required. I was a member, I was a Boy Scout riflery merit badge winner. I worked, was a member of the Kenyon College of Rifle team. Following graduation from Kenyon College, I took up firearms in a very serious way, beginning collecting and shooting. I was trained by Louis.
Oh my God, this guy is spurgy as fuck. Spurgtastic.
Tenenbaum, essentially right out of college, was a member of the U.S. Army Marksmanship Unit who thought I was worth taking his time with that. I appeared in a number of little television shorts and things like that through that time period. And when I really got going on primitive firearms, and I want to even talk about self-defense guns at this point, I was trained in combat.
He's going so fast, he keeps slowing down the internet.
I first appeared in the George Washington
television
miniseries in 1984, and I was assigned.
Guys, hold on. We got to pause. Something's fucked up here.
My role as a surveyor in the wilderness, and of course, I had my first.
All right, hold on. We gotta restart this.
For the judge, raise your right hand.
Do you swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you'll give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, have a seat, talking to the microphone. Thank you.
Sorry, chat. The damn thing is fucking
Also
bogging
bring
down.
a replica gun. With
Yes, I did.
Okay, hold on. All right. God damn it. Long crime. Ah!
A reenactment. And during.
Okay. because they fucking we must have stopped. They must have stopped while we were going. That's why this shit the bed on us. God damn.
With that, I appeared in a number of little television shorts and things like that through that time period. And when I really got going on primitive firearms, and I won't even talk about self-defensive guns at this point, I was trained in combat guns. I first appeared in the George Washington television miniseries in 1984, and I was assigned my role as a surveyor in the wilderness. And of course, I had my first real flintlock in my hands at that time. During the earlier times, had got a lot of primitive weapons, primarily flintlocks. Black powder stuff, was very interested in that. After that, I got going and I joined a group called the 1st American Regiment in 1985, which was the premier late 18th century, early 19th century reenactors for military reenactment. And during this time, and I believe you have a nice picture of me firing cannons, I became a sergeant of artillery doing reenactment big time. And in that capacity, I appeared in lots of movies. I fired artillery. This is 18th century artillery. I fired at the 1812 Overture with Cincinnati Symphony in various performances in big stadiums and things. I also, sorry for the cough, I also answered questions for NBC Nightline fairly routinely on weapons identification, because of course I'm fairly good expert in Russian weapons and one of the largest collectors in the United States. I took part with 1st American Regiment in many, many, many different film productions, television productions, that sort of thing, which were done by PBS. And I believe the History Network. These were shown at the time on television and also became educational movies, programs. They sold the rights to us, charging with bayonets to all kinds of ad agencies.
Okay, let me stop you for a second, because there's a lot of information.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But I wanted to ask you, in the course of that, you've had a whole lifetime. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it is.
Of gun. Have you been a collector also of period type weapons?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Are you familiar with the
Actually, yes, I agree. This guy was autism before autism was discovered. So, yeah. So, yeah, there's this guy's got something going on here. So, no, YouTube is having problems. AT&T is having problems in this area, guys. So just fucking chill your titties. It's not me. Just ice it down for a minute.
revolver, in this case, the 45 long Colt?
Absolutely.
Did you bring with you today that revolver? Not that revolver, but a revolver just like that revolver?
Yes.
Jur 13 saying, comparing him to my son degrades my son. Well, I presume your son's far cooler than this guy is. This guy is, holy cow. Next, this guy's going to tell us about the freaking hookers he's got buried in the basement. But that belt across his chest is so cringe, though. That's cringe, Lord.
We would call it a sister. It is made by Pieta, the same exact company. It was nearly sequential serial numbers. It is absolutely identical. Any part would interchange, and it will look exactly like the Baldwin gun.
Did you also bring a replica gun?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell the jury just first of all what that is?
This is a Denex replica. Denex is a company in Spain that makes replicas of anything from shotguns to antique weapons to swords, things like that. They're used by reenactors. They're used in movies. There was a Denex revolver on the set of Rust that was used as one of the dummy guns. There were in fact 10 non-firing
Fuck's
replica
sake,
guns on the set,
goddamn
that
YouTube.
look like this. So it can't shoot, but it looks like it. It functions. It cocks. The cylinder turns, and from 5 feet away, you couldn't tell unless you really looked.
Okay, sir. Let me, if I can. Yes, I was going to ask at this time, Your Honor, if I could tender him as an expert in the categories I previously did.
Well, why don't you state them on the record again?
Yeah, I was making sure I had the exact wording. Is that okay if you wrote those down? Because I don't want to change it. Well, I'll just say it again. It's firearm identification, firearm functioning, reloading of ammunition, and identification of ammunition,
They're
dummy rounds and live rounds.
Oof.
Any objection?
No objection within the confines of what we discussed at the bench.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I understand. So, sir, if you will,
So
I'm sorry.
For these specific areas, subject to the ruling up at the bench. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Sir, if you will, if you could, however the deputy handles this, but if you could retrieve the firearms from behind you.
Do it in public. And I will clarify that it is.
Just say we're gonna do it in public. Is this guy just saying we're gonna do it live? We're doing it live, chat. No, guys, I also checked on my phone. My phone's bogging down a little bit too on 5G. Everything's running a little slow out here.
Not loaded.
I think we're about to get hit with more rain.
Mr. Kusi, are you able to take the cylinder out so you can show everyone also that it's unloaded?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And here is an NX revolver.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to object.
All right, first of all.
Oh,
everybody's nervous.
oh my God,
All right,
really? Oh my God, did you just see that? He's just like pointing it at everybody. He just like flagged the whole fucking courtroom. Listen, you get to the deputy.
Everybody's nervous.
Did you hear? And that gun is not unloaded. There's no way to demonstrate that it's fake. He just whips out a fucking gun. Not even like opening the bag up. Hey, deputy, I'm going to show you that's unloaded. Can you verify it's unloaded? Yes, thank you. Now I'm going to demonstrate with this firearm that it's unloaded. None of that. None of that. He's just like, whoa, check this out, bitches. I got big iron in the courtroom. I'm a fucking rock and roller. That's what he just did. That's what he just did. Can you pan back and show it to us again? Sure. We're going to go back and watch this again, guys. Hold on.
Areas, subject to the ruling up at the bench. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Sir, if you will, if you could, however the deputy handles this, but if you could retrieve the firearms from behind you.
Do it in public, and I will clarify that it is not loaded. Okay, the first is a real.
Mr. Kusi, are you able to take the cylinder out so you can show everyone also that it's unloaded?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
And here is an NX revolver.
So, Your Honor, I'm going to object.
Oh, God. How did he do that? How did he... We got to go back a little. We're going to play this actually like half speed here. We're going to mute this. That's... Look at... see, also YouTube, this is fake. It's a fake gun. Check it out, bitches. I got the iron in here out. Ha 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 ha. It's like, that's him. So. You know, Nick says not be able to read social cues. Holy Jesus Christ. That's not read social cues, chat. Debbie's like, what? And he's just like this. The whole courtroom, I'm doing this to you, chat. Blah, put it down. Guess what? You're all covered by it. See? It's all fake, chat. It's all fake, YouTube. Don't cry. And he's just like, pow! You can't do that.
Everybody's nervous because you have not demonstrated to us that they're unloaded. So before you start showing.
Yes, he should start off by saying, hey, deputy, while it's in the bag, here, he should have gone back to that deputy and said, hey, deputy, here in this bag, can you please observe, do all these cylinders look empty to you? Click, 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 click. And he'd have been like, yeah. And then he'd be like, okay, thank you. Would you also notice that the magazine is also out of this? Yes. Would you agree this weapon's safe? Anything in the chamber, please check. No, this weapon's safe. Thank you, deputy. None of that. None of that. Holy shit.
Showing us the weapons, make sure they're unloaded, including that one that you just touched.
Get him say he's been around guns for years. What? Why is this going all slow-mo now? Ah! Holy shit, he just pointed at the judge! It's like, hey, Judge, check it out. It's a real. Does this look? Let's find out if it's unloaded. And she's just looking at it like, you motherfuckers. I mean, this is the guy they found. This is the guy they have. This is the guy they found. I'm watching Lord of the Rings in 4K. It's my fault slowing you down. Thank you. I didn't see this yet, Captain Chromo, but I'm glad I didn't see the spoiler. We got some super chats real quick I got to catch up on. Unhung Hero for $2 says, oh, I'm going to come. Don't come. Norkudo for $6.99 for 6 loonies and 99 100ths of a loony. Says, your show trials yesterday was the best of all the coverage. Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate that. I try to do what I can. President-elect Phil Swiss says for $4.99, the Helldivers 2 download is sucking up Sean's bandwidth. Stabby and I are waiting. Hellfoamers rise up. We'll be doing, I'm busy lately, but I'll be working on it, okay? Holy fuck. Look at that, chat. He's just like, it's like Max Payne mode, bullet time. Kapow! 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 Then he's just gonna go, bow, 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 bow! Holy Jesus. Holy Jesus on a cracker. Yeah, everybody get down. Everybody get down. Get down, chat. It gets better. Oh my God, I can't wait. This is Fudville shit. This is Fud. This is Fudness right here. Charlie said his finger's not on the trigger. Okay, fine. Finger not on the trigger. Still pointing at you. I ain't fucking letting you do that to me either. Should he be wearing gloves? No, because they're his items. There's no need to. That deputy's wearing gloves because it's not his guns and it's probably safer to handle things that way. These probably sat under his pile of dead cats. That dude in the pink dress, oof. Why didn't you just dismiss the hack fraud after that? Because there's going to be a presumption that's error if she dismisses the expert out of hand like that. That would look really bad if she threw him out right now. She's got to give him a chance. So she's got to try. She's got to try. Saying, I'm stupid. I'm not the one going around like this in the courtroom like, look at here, motherfuckers. You know, I'm in charge. Get on the ground. Like, I'm not the one doing that. Deputy should have checked it. It was already checked coming into the courtroom. There's no way he would have been able to bring those in if they weren't checked outside. 100% I can guarantee you that. Still, you have to clear them in the courtroom. I mean, God, I don't know how Ruckle's going to react to this, but Jesus, I almost want to see him tonight when he does it. It gets worse. How much more worse can this get? Does he just crank one off into the ceiling? Like, bow, I'll show you a live round, motherfucker. Boom. Like, what's he do? This would be the fourth wall of trial breaks. The trial of the guy who killed someone while testifying at a trial of somebody who died. Yes. Could the state have pulled the video on that when he lied about pointing? I haven't gotten that far yet. Don't spoil it, chat. Budget experts. No, I bet this guy holds himself out as a here's the problem. Bowles don't know shit about guns. Hannah don't really know shit about guns. I don't think Thel Reed really knows fuck about guns either. And this is the problem. People who don't know shit about guns, it's easy to get bullshitted by someone who has a modicum, just a bit more knowledge of guns. You're like, oh, that guy must know what he's doing. Like, you rattled off all that shit at the beginning. That's not fucking impressive. I've been shooting guns since I was a little kid, too. That's basically his only fucking experience. Yeah, she can see down the barrel. It's clear. Yeah. Holy shit. I'm going to back this up. I need that. I need this shot for a tweet. Right there. Fucking A. I'm saving that. Well, actually, hold on. I think we have enough buffering now done. I'm going to do... We need this back in full speed. So, holy fuck, chat. That was just awful to watch. Let's see if we watch it in HD.
You just touched.
Oh, yeah, I'm saving this. I'm saving this. That's... Fuck me, guys. Fuck me running. Oh, this is worse than Binger, guys. This is worse than Binger. So you turn that damn microphone down, Sean. Come on. I don't realize what's loud. What's the microphone problem? Sorry. You know, don't tell me how much he gets paid. I'm just like, holy shit. Okay. Did he cock the hammer as well? You have to. Okay. Remember, here's the deal, though. You have to cock it. You have to do half cock to spin the cylinders on a single action. So you got to cock it partially. I'm jealous I haven't flagged a judge. That's a fucking Chad move. That's a fucking alpha dog move, though. Just. Here you are, Your Honor. I'll clear it right in your face. Careful, it doesn't go off in your hair, Judge. Mega Mobass for $4.99 says Rust Armor trial cut. Watch as the expert handles a gun as it mysteriously shoots the judge. Yes. The Startup Lab for $19.99. Thank you very much. It's saying Sean has all of us LFAO. Your reactions are thank you. I'm fucking stupefied right now. Let's go. Let's go, chat. She's just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This guy must not have testified a lot in court before. So that must be an actual operating one because it's in a case. That's, you know what, though? Like, that's going to be a problem, I think. Why does he have multiples? So is he testifying to the jury? Because we can't hear shit. Like, this is gay. Yeah, this is it's law and crime. There's no audio, guys. I got the sound all the way up. So, let's see here. What do we? They're nice looking. That Bendix one looks nice. What are we fucking arguing about? Like, I think they're arguing to throw him out. But remember that judge has that she does that. That's very prejudicial. So we're probably not going to do it. This judge is not amused. She is not fucking amused.
Okay, Mr. Kusi, I want to make sure that, first of all, the Denix is the replica, it's non-firing. That is obviously clear, it cannot fire, correct?
Yes, I wish to demonstrate.
Okay, but let me lead the question. The other Pieta, you cleared with the deputy, but I want you to be able to take that cylinder out so we can show everyone it's clear. Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Gun's pointed in the safe direction.
Now it is.
If we can get this pin out, the cylinder is retained. The cylinder is retained by a pin. Once that pin is removed, the gun may be put in a partially cocked position. The cylinder may be pushed out. And again, the barrel's safe. You can look right straight through it. Sir, would you take that and show them all? It's empty. Is that acceptable?
It's up to the court.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
The deputy is not involved
No.
in this.
Okay.
Okay. And so,
It is empty. I demonstrated it's empty.
okay.
May I return it to the
Yes.
firearm?
It's oh, he's going to demonstrate the cross draw. He's going to go wah.
Okay, sir. Now, the first thing I want to ask you, comparing the Denix, the replica, to the Pieta, do they share some of the same characteristics?
Yes, they do.
And can you tell the jury, is the Denix made to look like the Pieta?
Absolutely.
And side by side, if you can, and Your Honor, may he step down to show the jury?
Yes.
Okay. Sir, if you can show them the Pieta and the Denix side by side, just so they can see.
This is a Denix. It is a replica, totally unfiring with a block barrel.
Yes,
It functions completely.
this guy should have done a dry run by himself. Like, they should have made sure, like, I know this guy's got courtroom experience. Like, they should have stood there with him. Like, how do you plan on doing this in the courtroom? And make sure he knows what he's doing.
Like a regular revolver, the cylinder turns, it will cock, it will snap and fire. It's unable to fire any ammunition. It's used as a replica. It's made of metal, and it functions just like a single action Army Colt, but it can't fire. I'll bring the next one, and then we'll compare them. Next gun in the safe position. This is a Pieta revolver. This is the sister gun to the Baldwin gun. It's a 45 caliber single action 1873 revolver, like was issued to Custer's troops. It is a true 45 long Colt. We call it this Colt, and it was designed for the U.S. Army to be able to kill a man and a horse. And it was the
Why are you
most
doing
popular
this,
firearm
dude? Stop.
in Western movies.
Thank you, Mr. Kusi. If you could,
Now, may I show the two together?
yes, if you will just show what, but not with testimony, but just showing them.
I'll reverse them.
Mr. Kuski, in your review as an expert in this case, are you aware?
So hold on here. I want to go. I just to make sure I saw that back because I found his gun actually. So if that was not, I assume those weren't safe. Just drop your guns. Just drop your guns.
Mr. Kuski, in your review as an expert in this case, are you aware whether there was a Denix revolver like that on set on Rust?
Yes, there is. It was covered in the invoices as rented by Rust Management.
Now, not demonstrating at this point, but can you tell the jury, based on what you just showed them on the Pieta, how you safely decock that firearm when you get it cocked?
You wish me to pick up the gun and show how it is decocked? I would prefer first showing on a Denix to them
Yes,
and then on a line.
just show.
Your Worship, Jeff, can you approach?
That is 100% a very valid objection. There's no reason to do this. Like, there was no issue about decocking the gun. Alec Baldwin says, yeah, he was kind of messing with it, but Alec Baldwin's not on trial. But there's been nothing talked about decocking, none of that gay stuff on here. So, no. I'd highly object to this. Why is he manipulating the firearm like that in front of the jury? No need to. No need to. Highly irrelevant. This doesn't help Hannah. So it was epic. Broncos clipping it. Yeah, this was just garbage. This guy, my God. This is awful. This is like truly this is some random boomer at the gun shop. This is how boomers at the gun store are. You know, Vietnam, we lost because their guns, they could shoot our bullets, but we couldn't shoot. They could shoot M16 ammo out of their AK-47s, but we couldn't shoot AK-47 ammo out of our guns. My gun when I was in Vietnam, it said made by Mattel on the side. Hooey! And those are actual claims boomers will make about guns because they're fucking idiots. This is... As someone who respects the power of firearms, this pains me, yes. Yes. And the funny thing is, you brought the rifle merit badge? Yeah, I didn't do any of that Boy Scout shit, so I don't even have one of those. I'm better. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Yes, their gun could shoot through the trees, ours couldn't. Eric is saying mine was an M14, not the 16. Okay, well. Stabby saying this piece for the prosecutor's witness, right, Sean? Right? Sean? Answer the question, Sean! Oh my God, this is just awful. Oh, Dead Snake says my grandpa literally said the same things about Nam. Yeah, it's not a joke. Oh, I'm sure he's an NRA life benefactor member who's like, Wayne LaPierre never done nothing wrong. So here we go. What does cocking the gun have to do with the defense? It does not.
Okay, Mr. Kusi, if you will, using the Denix, the replica, demonstrate that.
Oh, by the way, Denix, DENIX, they sell guns, replica guns. For like 93 euros, you can buy a single action 45 for like 93 bucks. Their catalog is like all kinds of cool stuff. Like you can buy like replica, all kinds of stuff here. You could buy like a replica. What's the M16 replica look like? The M16A1. 275 bucks? Jeez, does it operate? Yeah, well, anyway, that's the company this guy's talking about.
The cocking and proper decocking of that weapon.
Yes. This is one of the primary things that an individual must be trained in to safely cock and decock a Colt revolver or a replica. Now, first, the finger has to stay off of the trigger and
tell me he
outside of the
fucking
trigger
slips
guard,
the hammer.
no matter what. That's the essential rule of safety. The firearm is cocked with your thumb, you see, fingers still outside of the trigger. No one touches any trigger. This is now a gun capable of being fired. Now, the first thing I do here is put my thumb on top of it. If I'm not real strong, I put two thumbs on. Notice my finger is still completely off the trigger. I then slowly, gently pull the trigger and lower the hammer onto the cartridge. I then back it up to its safe position. Now I will demonstrate the same thing exactly with a real P8 revolver. Okay, we have P8 safely aimed. My finger is off the trigger. You can see this is where it has to stay. If your finger's in there, you can't decock safely. Now, again, we cock 1, 2, 3, 4. COLT, the clicks. This is a cocked, ready to fire revolver if it were loaded. My finger must stay out of the trigger guard and hit on the side. Now, I put my finger in, but I don't put it in until I put my thumb here. Even putting it in out of the trigger guard and hit on the side. Now, I put my finger in, but I don't put it in until I put my thumb here. Even putting it in before, like that, would cause it to fire perhaps. Now, I'm holding the hammer back. I can feel the spring. Everything's safe. Now my finger goes on the trigger, pulls the trigger, slowly lowers to a safe position without snapping, and then pulls back to the safety notch, which removes the firing pin from the cartridge. Notice my finger is out of there again, now that the gun is cocked. And that's the only decocking. A guy doing this experience can do it with his thumb, because this is all knurled here, so it can't slip. Fingers out of there. I decock safely. And
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you for demonstrating that. And I wanted to ask you with regard to that operation, in this particular case, we're dealing with a movie set, obviously.
Yes.
Do the general rules of firearm safety, including the demonstration you just did, do they apply equally on movie sets?
Absolutely.
Okay, now,
Guys, if you're watching on Rumble, I'm sorry, Rumble's just died. So
in your work as an expert in this case, reviewing all the information, did you agree with Mr. Haig's conclusion regarding violation of some of those safety rules?
Absolutely.
Now, I want to ask you, I want to switch topics. I want to ask you about reloading. There's been some testimony about an inertia puller.
Yes.
And if you could tell the jury what an inertia puller is.
An inertia puller is basically a type of hammer that pulls bullets out of loaded cartridges when you have a misfire or you wish to disassemble old ammo. Basically, it has a plastic head about this big. It has a handle on it like a hammer that costs about $12. You put the cartridge, which could be any kind of cartridge, old dead cartridges, whatever you got, and you put it in, clamp it down with a little device, close the thing up. There'll be an empty space underneath, and there'll be a ring here holding the cartridge in metal, and you bang it on a table, and the bullet is pulled out. That the bullet, remember, is the lead part, not the case, and the bullet will fall out. If there's powder, that will fall out as well. You then get a bullet, ka-ching. You have powder, which you can pour out, and you have a case, which may or may not be live primed, or maybe a good primer, maybe a rechargeable case, maybe anything that happens to be there.
Okay, so Mr. Kusi, if you wanted to reload a round, let's say you want to convert a dummy round to a live round, what are the steps in the reloading process?
Well, this is really extremely technically difficult. And the way it begins is you have to have, suppose it is a dummy. This is a beat up old piece of old brass that happens to have a dummy bullet in it. It has a dead primer in it. So what you start is you pop out the bullet. You see there's no powder. Now you turn over the case, put the bullet aside. The case is filthy. The case is all grody and nasty from sitting around. It has to go in a machine called a tumbler. Every reloader worth his salt has a tumbler. It's about this big. Sometimes it's a ball, sometimes it's a drum. It's filled with generally powdered walnut, and it's got a motor, and it spins and spins and spins as a polishing machine. And at the end of that time, you come out with brass that looks somewhat better than it started because it's knocked off
oh my God, are we really doing this?
some of the crud. You then wipe that down smooth. You then have to have a tool which is called a reloading press. I have a photograph, if you wish to see, of a reloading press. Would that be acceptable?
We can actually, if you can finish.
Well, let's go finish.
Process, yeah.
You then have a reloading press. The reloading press, as one of its functions, is to get that old dead primer out. Remember, the primer's in the little hole in the bottom of the brass you're holding. This press has a big lever. It has a special pin designed for that cartridge to remove the primer, because if it went the other direction, you'd bang the cartridge up.
And then Hannah didn't have any of this in her room, just the kinetic puller. So she didn't have any of the equipment. She was kind of ghetto improvising things, it sounds like. That doesn't make her sound better here, chat.
There's one more tool you must have, and that's called a shell carrier or a little shell holder. And that's sized exactly for the diameter of the rim of the cartridge you're going to take apart. So 45.
You don't need to tell them this shit.
Like has to be a 45. Slide in that so it holds it's completely solid. Put this in your press, line it up over the top, and pull. And when you pull, that pin will drive out the primer. Ka-chink. Now you've got a case with no primer in it. It's shined up as best as your material can do. Now we get to the good part. You have to put a new primer in. First, you have to have a new primer, and they're very, very hard to get in much of the markets because they've been just grabbed up. So you take this tiny little primer, you put it in a tool called a priming tool. This may be part of your press, or it may be an independent machine. And this will hold the primer safely. Again, it has to be for your cartridge. You have to put that little shell holder in. You put the shell, which is empty, the empty case, slide it into the holder, pull the lever, and the primer, which is quite explosive, is pressed carefully flat up into the exact right position. And if you didn't have the shell holder and all the right gear, you couldn't do it. The primer would blow up the minute it was hit, but it's safe this way. Now you've got a case, and that case is certain to get to be a live case. And it would be called a live case. It has a live primer, nice shiny case. You then put that in your press and go to the next stage. I have the press. You stick it in that ever-present shell holder again. It holds it perfectly, immaculately straight. You then have on your press something called a sizing die. The sizing die costs about $55, fits in presses. You adjust that properly, which takes some skill, and you pull. The sizing die goes right over the top of the case and makes it the right size, because an old dummy isn't the right size. It jam up in your gun, wouldn't take a bullet, piece of junk. Once it's sized, there's a little ball inside, pulls it up, and that very neatly expands the top of the case. And without that expansion, you can't put a new bullet in. So now we've got a nice expanded case with a nice live primer in it. Looks pretty darn good. It's all sized to the right size. The mouth is expanded. Now you got to have a powder measure, and you have to have the right powder. You can't just use any old gunpowder. There are literally dozens and dozens. It has to be the acceptable powder for a 45 load and measured. You get too much, you blow up. Literally, it'll blow up the gun, blow up in your face, and everybody knows about that. Put too little in, you get something called a squib, where it pushes the bullet into the barrel where it sticks. That's what killed Brandon Lee, was a stuck bullet. And now you've got the right amount of powder. Now to measure that powder, you need either a powder scoop of the right size, and to make dozens. So you'd say, okay, I want one for that powder for that round. And you scoop it out. That's pretty fast. That's the old way. The new way is something like what I have, and these are computer-driven, perfect measures that will get within 1 grain of powder. And they're computer-driven trickle chargers. They cost about $300. They're real fancy. Put in the powder, put in the exact grains of weight that you want that powder to be, press a button, and a little tiny tray fills up, and you dump it into the cartridge through a little funnel. Now you got powder, you got primer, you got a good case. You take your bullet and you put it on the top. But you need one more tool for your press, and that is a die that fits that bullet. And so you put in the die, everything's sitting there. You pull the big lever, and it puts pressure straight exactly down to push the bullet in exactly as deep as you want it to go. And after it's in there, the die that you've purchased, which is another expensive toy, presses on the outside of the case and puts what's called a crimp on it. And that case now has the bullet seated on top of the powder, the exact correct depth, which you know through measurements and books, and it squeezed real tight. Otherwise, the bullet would just fall out. Or the first time you fired the gun, the bullet would just flop out on the other cartridges. It must be crimped tight.
So, Mr. Kusi, that is an enormous amount of steps.
Yes. Yes.
And I appreciate that complete explanation, because would you agree that it's not sufficient to just have an inertia puller
No.
to accomplish all those steps? Okay.
It's useless.
Okay. And with all of that required for reloading, you've described the components of a live bullet. Are you also in agreement with the FBI that you cannot tell a live round from a dummy?
Yes.
With a picture.
In a picture, absolutely not.
Did you, I know in the course of your expert work, you're able to watch portions of the trial and pay
Yes.
attention. Did you see in any of the videos or any of the pictures, any of this type of reloading equipment you've been talking about?
Well, I believe in Seth has a tumbler, I think I saw in the back, which is what you polish up brass with for reloading. I saw.
Objection, foundation. I'm sorry, I'm having an issue with my shoe. Pardon me.
What are we listening to? What are we listening to right now?
Aaron, let me ask you on a different topic with regard to the dangers of intermixing live and dummy ammunition. Can you tell the jury if those are stored in the same place, or is that potentially dangerous?
And I will object if we can approach, please.
This is just fucking garbage.
As a gun collector, gun owner, everything, do you regularly have interaction with different types of ammunition?
Yes, I do.
And does that include live ammunition and dummy ammunition?
Yes, it does.
And do you, with regard to the dummy ammunition, do you teach individuals proper gun safety?
Absolutely. I'm an NRA certified pistol instructor.
And as part of that, do you sometimes use dummy rounds in your teaching with them?
Yes, I do.
In that capacity, have you become familiar with various types of dummy ammunition?
Yes, I do.
And are you familiar with various types of live ammunition?
Yes, I am.
Do you store live ammunition, or do you have a place to store live ammunition yourself?
Yes, I do.
And do you have a place to store dummy ammunition yourself?
Yes, I do.
Are you familiar with whether there are any dangers of storing those together?
Absolutely.
And why would that be?
There are two sides of the danger. One easy to see, and that is if a live round somehow found its way in with look-alike dummy ammunition, you would have a very severe chance of having somebody getting killed. Now, the flip side is perhaps equally dangerous, though less visible. If I'm hunting Russian wild boar, which I hunt with a handgun in California, and I go to shoot at a Russian wild boar that weighs 325 pounds, and it's coming right at me, and the gun goes click because I substituted a dummy.
Thank you, Ron.
So yes, both sides are bad.
Absolutely. And with regard to your storage of ammunition, is it important to have an inventory system?
Yes, I have a inventory system for all my ammunition, all my powder, all of my reloading, which goes into dozens of different kinds of rounds.
And in the course of your reloading, did you become aware that in 2021 timeframe, was it difficult to purchase primers?
Yes, we called the great ammo shortage, and there was, for a variety of reasons, a huge run on ammunition. You couldn't get primers to reload. You know, they just didn't happen. You couldn't get them. You go to the store, you couldn't get them. You couldn't get even 9mm ammo. You couldn't get almost anything. The store shelves were emptied out. People were hoarding powder. Even my long-range rifle stuff, I couldn't get powder. So yes, that's called the great ammo shortage, and to a certain extent, it still goes on.
Now, during your course as an expert, in this case, you heard Mr. Haig's testimony. Do you agree with his conclusion that the live rounds found on set were reloads?
Yeah, well, hand loads. A reload means that it's an old case reloaded. He was very...
Objection. What's the fresh?
Why are we? I am perplexed. I am perplexed. The lawyer shot himself to prove his client innocent. Oh, I'm interested in that. Oh my God. This is oh. This guy's not a Gunspurg. This guy is not a Gunspurg. He is an idiot. This is a fuddy boomer.
Mr. Kusi, is it your opinion that from your viewing them, that the live rounds on set were reloads or hand loads?
Yes, it is.
And would you explain what you saw, the quality, were they lower quality in your opinion?
Lower quality than what?
In terms of like a store-bought round from a major manufacturer or something like that, or do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I believe they were less consistent than that of a major manufacturer. Meaning, and I can expound on that if you wish.
Yes.
Okay. When you get...
I'm going to object again. Let's approach.
Oh my God, chat. Chat, why are we doing this to ourselves, chat? Hannah just needs to go to fucking prison now. This is not good. Holy Jesus. This is just awful. God, this is just garbage.
Do you understand also, as an expert in reviewing the information in this case, there are a variety of different types of dummy rounds on set? There were a variety?
Yes.
Okay. And did that include some that rattled, some that did not rattle, and some with a hole in the side?
Yes.
Okay. Did you also review evidence in this case of Mr. Baldwin not only being dangerous at the time of the actual tragic shooting, but dangerous at other times on set?
Objection.
Alec Baldwin being dangerous is nothing to like. Sir, whose job is it to stop Alec Baldwin from being dangerous on the set? Is it the armor's job? Yes, thank you. Moving on. Can you sue me, Long Crime, and Hannah Reid and her lawyer for inflicting this upon us? Yeah. God almighty. This is just garbage.
Okay, sir, my full question was going to be,
Oh my God,
did you see evidence
listening to this?
that Mr. Baldwin was not safe with firearms after there was a yell of cut in a particular scene and he shot a blank after that scene?
Yes, I feel that's unsafe.
One further question. Are you familiar with the period weapon called a Henry rifle?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar if that is loaded or unloaded at the bottom of that rifle, whether somebody could see whether there was rounds at the bottom of it if they're just looking?
Yes, a Henry, may I go into
Yes.
detail? A Henry rifle is the predecessor to the Winchester. Mr. Henry actually invented the Winchester. It is a rifle with a very long barrel, doesn't have a handguard under, which was a problem. It's loaded from the top in a kind of a weird way, and the ammunition, the cartridges are dropped into a long tube where a spring pushes them down. One of the biggest disadvantages, and this was in the Civil War, is it has a long open side on it, beneath the barrel, where you can actually look in and see all the loaded cartridges. Now, they thought that was a really good deal until they got in the mud of the trenches and the cartridges were all jammed. Right now, if you look at a Henry, anybody who knows anything about Henrys looks at that Henry.
But troops on the front line were not using Henrys. That would have been cavalrymen, and the Henry was a particular favorite of the Confederacy because they could run what they brung. 44 rimfire was not a Union stock. The Union started using repeaters from the Sharps Company and other guns. But the Henry was not used and issued in commonplace to troops.
And says the whole side's open and you can see ammunition in there, dummies, whatever. And if you don't have that, they're going to be laughing because it looks like an empty rifle.
I mean, fuck me with this guy. All boomer logic.
Finally, sir, the last question I want to ask you, with regard to, there was some criticism in the trial, one point of Ms. Gutierrez-Reed holding a shotgun with it pointed in front of her. And is there, do you have an opinion on that with regard to, for example, military drill?
Yes, I do.
Objection.
What does that have to do with this? What does military drill have to, what does the manual of arms have to do with that? The Rust movie is not a military movie. It has nothing to do with it. Highly ill fucking relevant. But it's the defense. She's going to let him go wild on this because, well, it's protecting the record. Hannah's just like, this is good. Oh my gosh, he's so smart. He's like my dad. He's like my dad. Oh my gosh.
Yet another objection, withdraw that question. And then, so I'm yet another objection, withdraw that question. And that's all the questions I have.
Cross-exam.
You don't end on an objection like that. Come up with something to ask. It's just like another, like, come up with something. You generally don't want to end like that.
Mr.
They put his whole fucking name up there. Wow. Okay.
Kusi, do you agree with me that basic gun safety requires that the handler of the gun not point the gun at anyone?
If it's a real gun, yes.
Do you agree with me that while you were sitting here in the courtroom, you pulled out a gun and you pointed it at the judge?
I do not.
You disagree?
I pointed the gun into this space up here, never directly at the judge.
Do you agree that basic gun?
What? 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 My brother in Christ. My brother in Christ. Yeah, you did. Like, I got the picture. Like, I got my picture. I'm coming with you. Dear Louis, count me in. Like, Louis, I got it. I got it, brother. Oh my God, I got it. Hold on, I'm going to bring it up. Thank God for fucking Snagit. Thank God for Snagit. Like, yes, it literally happened, man. You're like, that did not happen. That did not happen. I'm a boomer. We don't make mistakes like that. Like my dude. We're back, guys. We're back, right? God, I don't know what happened there. Frustrating as hell. This was just absolutely. I mean, this guy's like, I didn't point the gun at nobody's. I didn't point the gun at no one. Like, let's just go back to that real quick. The
gun at anyone?
If it's a real gun, yes.
You wouldn't point a fake gun at anybody either.
Do you agree with me that while you were sitting here in the courtroom, you pulled out a gun and you pointed it at the judge?
I do not.
You disagree?
I pointed the gun into this space up here, never directly at the judge.
Do you agree?
I like I said, I got your picture. And that's not what happened here, man. That is not what happened. I went out just like at Failsafe. Yeah. What? Well, that's a good movie. That's a callback. That is a callback. You didn't find the clip? No, I don't have the clip, but I got something better than the clip. I got a still. Why won't it let me switch over? It's not gonna let me switch over. Hold on here in chat. All right, yeah, because it's got to be difficult. At StreamYard, you need to help me here with this next time. I should be able to show us. Yes, because this wasn't him earlier in the day. Nope, I'm not pointing my gun at the judge. Oh my God. That's why don't they just dismiss this guy when he said that? Clearly not an expert. Remember, the judge is not going to do that because it's prejudicial to the defense to do that. It's a prejudice issue. So, High Plains Drifter, yeah. Well, this guy's a High Plains boomer. High Plains hack. He put his hand over the end of the barrel too. Yeah. Mr. Sniper, this stuff is it's less than 2 years old. It's all good stuff. I don't know what the hell happened. Perfectly horizontal. Yeah, Hannah is boned. And she's looking right down that barrel right now, yes. Patty saying, is the bailiff tackling him? No, the bailiff just goes like this. The gun's right here, and the bailiff just pushes it down. So, yeah. So yeah, this is just fucking brilliant. Brilliant boomer work. So yeah, this is gonna go so well for Hannah. Here we go.
Agree that basic gun safety requires that you keep the muzzle of the gun pointed down for safety?
Not at all. A gun may be pointed as any hunter education class like I taught.
Straight up
is pointed up, maybe pointed back, maybe pointed cross arms as in the military, maybe pointed at the ground, maybe put in something like a military stance, such as order arms with the butt on the ground and the piece right under your arm. So no. And to further, in a cross draw or any of the...
No, I'm not talking about a cross draw. Thank you. Do you agree that when you pulled that firearm out and pointed it in the direction of the judge, the deputy standing next to you had to intervene and grab the gun and point it down?
I would object.
Well, there's nothing to object to. That happened. There's nothing to object to, my man. There's nothing to object to. Also, I messaged Runkle if he's going to talk about this tonight. I want to come on because this is just too good. That should have been an overruled objection. That is a 100% relevant.
Mr. Kusi, have you ever been qualified as an expert in firearms safety in a court of law?
No.
Have you ever worked on criminal cases before?
Yes, I have.
Have all of the cases that the criminal cases that you've worked on, has Mr. Bowles been the attorney in all of them?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Wait, this is Bowles like this is Bowles like this is my go-to gun guy. This is my go-to gun guy, chat. Fuck Bowles. I don't know how the fuck you make money, dude, if this is your go-to guy.
Give me a moment, please.
You must fucking bullshit people out of all kinds of retainers. I truly feel bad for Hannah right now, because if he thought this was good. Sparky, no, that wasn't the replica he was pointing. He was pointing the real deal. Yeah, yes. Hey, Sparky, no, he pointed the real deal at the judge, not the replica.
Let me clarify my question. Have you worked on criminal cases related to the securities industry?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Other than, and you're an investment banker, correct?
Not exactly, but sufficient name for it.
Okay. And
That means he's a money launderer, probably.
other than working on criminal cases having to do with securities, do you agree with me that the only other types of criminal cases you've worked on have all involved Mr. Bowles?
I do not.
Isn't it true, sir, that you provided a pretrial interview in this case on November 29th, 2023?
Yes.
And isn't it true that during that interview, my investigator, Mr. Rice, asked you, is Mr. Bowles the only attorney that you've worked with? And your response was, outside of the securities industry in the past, yes.
Yes, and I have worked since then, and I've worked prior to that confidentially with cases before the United States Navy and other cases which were criminal, and I believed you were speaking only.
Oh, I'm calling fucking bullshit on that. I absolutely bullshit. I did top secret stuff in bullshit. Or if you did, people went to fucking prison. Sending guys to the brig, probably.
Of what's going on here. If you'd like to hear the other ones, I'm very happy to tell you. I worked, for example, with the Monterey Sheriffs.
Is there a question?
No, there is not a question on the table right now.
The judge shouldn't have got in there. If she didn't want to hear an answer, she should have stopped him. He should have been able to keep going. The judge interfering like that's not right.
You gave a lengthy description about how a person could turn a dummy round into a live round. You recalled the testimony that you gave moments ago.
Yes.
I want to talk to you about doing the opposite, okay? I want to talk to you about taking a live round and turning it into a dummy round.
Okay.
Okay? Do you agree with me, sir, that the first step is you would place the live round in the inertia puller and smack it so that the projectile separates and the powder comes out?
Yes.
And at that point in time, you are left with an empty casing, a projectile, a pile of gunpowder. But the problem with your casing is that it still has a live primer, right?
That's right.
So in order to make the primer inert, you can take that empty shell casing with that live primer, you can put it into a firearm and you can fire it.
Correct.
And now I've made the primer inert.
There is another way if you wish to hear.
No, I appreciate you though, but
Thank you. Yes, I agree.
you agree that what I'm saying, it can be done.
Can be
Yes.
done.
And then after I've fired it and I've heard the pop, knowing that the primer has now been made inert, I can take that projectile and I can just put super glue on it and stick it back into that casing.
Well, you couldn't normally without expanding the case. That's what I was talking about when you do a sizer. You could expand the case with a sizer because what's going to happen in many cases, and I can't say every one because I've never done super glue, is it's very difficult to get a bullet into a case that hasn't been expanded in size. You could try it. I can't guarantee it'll work.
Sure, I mean, you can take the empty shell casing and you can put it on top of a projectile and you can take your inertia puller or a hammer and just tap it down.
An inertia puller is made out of plastic. It is not for tapping anything down. But you could take a hammer, but what's very likely to happen is you'll bend the case beyond all use and recognition and it can't fall in. That's why you expand cases in the process. You could try it. I've never beat in any bullets. Some bullets are very, very hard. Some are soft. So it is possible with a soft lead bullet that you could maybe not bend your case and maybe not shave off your bullet. Possible.
And isn't it true, sir, that the live ammunition found on the set of Rust in fact had soft lead bullets?
I didn't measure the lead, so there's something called a
So hang on, I appreciate your response. In fact, sir, you have never actually
Boom, he's just gonna say, you never went on the set, you don't know fuck all what happened except from the reports. Calling right now.
viewed the live rounds that are in evidence. You've only seen pictures of them, isn't that
Correct.
correct? So you haven't taken them and looked at them, right?
I've taken all the pictures and looked, that's it.
Okay, but you watched the testimony of our expert, Mr. Haig.
Yes, I did.
And isn't it true that Mr. Haig testified that the projectiles from the live rounds found on the set of Rust were soft lead?
I didn't hear soft, but lead, certainly.
They weren't copper jacketed, correct?
No, not copper jacketed.
And he also testified that because they were lead and lead is a soft metal, that's the reason that that projectile became so damaged when it went through Ms. Hutchins and into Mr. Souza.
Absolutely, that's called ballooning.
All right, thank you, sir.
What did he call it? No, that's called deformation. It flattens out because lead, you could smack it with a hammer and flatten it out. It's very malleable. It suffered from ballistic deformation. Deformation, not defamation, guys. It's not a defamation case. Keep it notes.
You testified on direct examination that you can't tell a live round from a dummy round.
Once again, he's saying bulleting, ballooning. That's all bullshit. He has no idea what the fuck he's saying. All bullshit, boomer nonsense.
In a photograph.
Simply in a photograph. I agree with Mr. Haig, who said the same thing.
Well, do you agree with me that you can tell a live round from a dummy round in a photograph if that dummy round has a hole drilled into the casing so it can't have any gunpowder?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir. And in your review of the case materials, sir, you understand that live ammunition from PDQ Props was sent to the FBI and it was determined to be substantially different than the live rounds found on the set of Rust.
I do.
You gave an opinion earlier that you believe that the live rounds were hand loads.
Yes,
You
I
recall
do.
that?
Yes.
And I just want to be clear, you're giving that opinion just from looking at photographs, not from going to the evidence room, taking the evidence, handling it in the way that Mr. Haig did.
Yes.
All right.
And for Mr. Haig's testimony as well.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
John, I'll have the follow-up questions.
This witness is excused, thank you.
May I help me with these?
I'm just waiting for a bang. You gotta care, yes, because the judge is like, fuck me, let's get this over with. So he brought Bulls was gonna have him come in and like he was gonna come in and do a fucking cross. He was gonna have him do all kinds of shit with the cross draw and everything. Also, notice I just did that. I'm like already got the gun on my. Yeah, like a cross draw is really hard because you gotta like. Because otherwise, like if I got my arm here, like I'm already covering my arm. Doesn't work. Like cross draw is fucking dangerous. But look at that shit. Like that, he was gonna come in and play fucking like Alec Baldwin up on stage. Wow. Well, Hannah's like, I think I still have a chance.
Finished for the day. You can expect closing arguments to commence tomorrow morning, not right away.
What? Oh wow.
The defense is still.
They're gonna call
putting on the
Phil.
case, but when the defense is finished, then we will do closing arguments, and they anticipate that it will be sometime in the morning that we will get to closing arguments. Okay. So please don't talk among yourselves or anyone else about the evidence received here in court. Don't do any research or online Googling about the Rust production or this trial. Thank you. We'll see you at 8:30.
Oh. Wow. Wow. How do you know they're calling Baldwin? No, they're gonna call Thel Reed. Because if they called Baldwin, the subpoena would already be out there because it has to get served. So no, that's not happening. That they would have to call Baldwin. He would have to have time to subpoena, and he'd be fighting it.
Insurance companies that often.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm the one doing the talking here, not you, Hoss. So it's gonna be Daddy Thel. Joe Lloyd for £5 sterling. The King Sterling. Nice place to hang out. Cheers. Thank you, Joe. He kind of reminds me of Mumbles from Dick Tracy, yes. So, let me see here. Look at the judge's nameplate, cultural appropriation. Oh, yeah, it's the New Mexico state flag symbol, the Zia symbol. So, yeah. Hannah's now scared. She should have been fucking scared a long time ago. Now's not the time for fear. That ship already came. You know, Bane normally says, now's not the time for fear. That comes later. Well, later already came and went. You should have taken a plea, honey. But she's going down for her dad, I guess. Whatever. President-elect Phil Swift says, detectives clearing it by staring into the barrel. Experts aiming at judges and counsel. This is better than an episode of Law & Order. Yes, it is. And then Mega Mobas for $9.99 says, in the famous words of the Honorable Michigan 3B District Judge Middleton, you're an idiot. Or another classic, you need a ticket on the Clue Bus. Is he one of the judges that like puts his stuff on, like his Zoom hearings on YouTube? I'll have to like send me a link. We'll watch some of those, I guess, coming up. We need some things to talk about out here. Jeff B says easy perjury charge. Nope, remember, perjury is hard. I thought I did that. I thought I pointed it. I was up in the air. I guess I was mistaken. Not guilty. So, yes, this guy taught Dick Cheney gun safety. Oh, yeah. Oh. Hannah got confused and thought it was the same bald lawyer from Rittenhouse. Yeah, I thought it was Corey Shafasi. Yeah. Oh. No Name says going between your stream and Hunley's is absolutely fascinating what you guys differ on. Well, we're looking at different things, what we think is important, what we think is not important. That's the neat part here. You'll see multiple parties say multiple things. It's always interesting, but that's the neat part about lawyers. We will look at different things. Was she offered a plea? She was told to tell us where the ammo came from, and she won't say. Yeah, the plea wasn't Carrie Morris. She said it. Tell me where the ammo came from, and I'll work with you. And she won't do it. So Otto says, "You like my tie? Thank you. We'll be probably. Well, actually, we're home tomorrow, so we're working from home all day. So we'll be doing this thing all day long tomorrow." I also messaged Runkle, and he's like, "Oh my god." So I'm hoping he can. I'm hoping he brings people on tonight because this is totally worth it. And if he doesn't, I'm going to. Oh my god, good lord, on a surfboard. Explain the dad connections to Jack. Jack saying, how's her dad involved in this? Okay, so Hannah's dad is some guy named Thel Reed, who I've never heard of. You've never heard of either. So when I say the great Thel Reed, yes, in the insular world of like movie armors, he's like Daddy Big Dick. He's an old school guy who's done it forever, and he's like a has-been, like he used to be. Like he used to be really good. He was really famous. He was in movies, on TV shows, and a lot of westerns, and then became really good at doing armor work because he kind of grew up into the role. So Hannah goes around. Her name's Gutierrez because apparently Hannah's mom stooped around and like got knocked up by another dude. So it's not Thel's kid, but Thel's stepdad and raised her. She runs around using Thel's last name to ingratiate herself and get business because it's like running around saying like your name's like, if I went around and be like, Bailey, like, you mean like F. Lee Bailey? Yes. It'd be like using that. So, or it's like going around Beverly Hills and talking about Uncle Aaron. You'd be like Aaron Spelling and be like, no, Hank Aaron. So she did that, and she came from a set where she was doing stuff, and then the other armorer, Seth Kinney, and Thel Reed were working on 1883, one of the Yellowstone movies, one of the Yellowstone offshoots. They were also doing some more stuff, and Hannah ended up bringing ammunition of her own to the set. Who knows really what those were? I think more than the set Dad was on, they were using live ammo. The set Hannah was on, they weren't. I have a feeling, and I think a couple people agree with me, the ammunition came from Dad. They were Dad's ammo. Dad gave her all that ammo. She doesn't want to do that because she doesn't want her dad on trial. So she's taking the fall for her dad because she knows where it came from. Because it didn't come from Seth Kenny. Notice they talked about that. They had the lead round nose bullets in the gun that killed Halanya Hutchins. Seth Kenny's live ammo was all wad cutters or semi-wad cutters, different bullet construction. So where do they come from? The only other place Hannah has to know, and she won't say. So that's the problem. So Hunley isn't a lawyer, is he? No, but Eric is Eric's very intelligent. He was making observations, so that's the thing. Hunley understands what's going on, though. He's very very intelligent and articulate in his things out there. I think he's so I mean, he's also looking at it from the layman's perspective. No name, why won't she say? Because it probably throws her dad under the bus. Stacy said she may not know. Well, then she could just say, I don't know. Just say, I don't know. But she won't say that either. Otto says Hunley and the prosecutor went after him and it scared him. Yeah, and you know what Hunley did? He talked to Nate the lawyer. He talked to attorneys. And, the attorneys told him to tell her to go fuck off. And guess what happened? Once you speak with an attorney, it's like the lawyers I talked to told you to fuck off, Carrie. And guess what? Carrie fucked off. So, yeah, but a lot of people call me saying, oh, a lawyer did something. What do I do? And I tell them, don't fucking worry about it. You're all good, man. And they're like, okay, cool. So, Yeah. Mr. Sniper says Kiev is on fire from your lips to God's ears. Don't be careful of my dreams. Runkle should get Sean and Bronca on. Well, I think it'd be great tonight to talk about this. Oh my God. Yes, he was the armor on Tombstone. Yeah. So Brittany says, wasn't he a quick draw guy? Yeah, Thel Reed was a quick draw and gun twirler, which like twirling guns like in Tombstone, where you could kind of like, you're like spinning them around and shit. That's actually a very hard skill to do. It's not an easy one. It takes a lot of time, a lot of practice. So yes, he was a very, very skilled Western person. He was a competitive shooter too. Yeah, but back then everybody shot guns in the 70s and 80s. Donald Trump. Yeah, thank you. Yes, nepotism. Yes. Sean Martin Cochran, Esquire. Yes. My grandfather, Johnny. You may have heard of him. That'd be great. You don't look too black. It's like, I suffer from that Michael Jackson thing. Broncos in his grift bubble on locals. Yeah, maybe. He's got a locals? I didn't know that. So Daddy's paying the attorney's fees. They barely have any money. I think they scraped together a lot of money for this. So Alpha Fox's opinions on that vary. What part varies? A Sparky says 5220 is a timestamp, not a real gun. We're gonna go back. We're gonna check this out. Chot. We're gonna go back and watch this. Also, guys, today is Super Tuesday. If you live in like Minnesota, like okay, hold on, it's like California, Utah, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Minnesota, Vermont, Massachusetts, or Maine. Go vote. It's Super Tuesday for the Republican side. Although, if you're having to vote for the Democrat side, it's not your Super Tuesday. So don't go vote because that's not available for what you want to do. So please don't. Yeah. Just pointing out it is Super Tuesday if you're looking for the Republican Party. So if you haven't voted yet, go vote. Don't forget. Okay, let's go back. Let's see this Yahoo playing with a gun. All right, hold on here, chat. We're going to do this together. Because we move on together. Do. Here we go. Okay, no. Where's him whipping them out? Okay, here we go. See, the Denix was outside of a gun case because it's not a live firearm. Okay? And what do we see now? Coming out of the case. The fucking real one, the heater. Fucking homie's got the heater. The big iron. He's toting a Roscoe. Walking the dog. Whatever you want to call it. Holding that gat. Carrying some weight. That's the real one. Let's see here. Which one did he bat down? This is the one he bat down, I thought. Wait, so he already did it, I think. Yeah, he already did home. We gotta go back. We gotta go back more. All right, hold on. Oh, wait. You're right, Sparky. You are right. It was the fake one. You are correct. We're going to open it up. It's the fake one. And he goes with the fake one. But that's not fake until it's checked. So that's still a live weapon. Just like if this was in the courtroom, this is fake. You wouldn't go waving this around at anybody either. So, but yes, you were correct. You were technically correct. The most kind of correct. It's Kiev. No, it's Kiev. Chicken Kiev doesn't sound good. Chicken Kiev sounds like a sick... Chicken Kiev sounds like a medical disease. I ain't white, you're Sicilian, partially. So... they pawned her Instagram wardrobe to pay for this, yeah. So... Aaron Hack says, I voted. Oh, good job. Bifront says, I voted at lunch. Yes. Vote early and often. Nika says, careful, Sean. That was a joke. They got some guy on Twitter for that. What? What did I say? Oh, yeah. Saying who to vote for. Yeah. Yes. Not a real gun doesn't matter. It's how we brought it out. Yeah. Yeah. It's all real guns. Try to say, Massachusetts votes today? Yeah, it does for the Republican primary. I don't think the Democrat one. Dems vote on Super Wednesday. Okay, well. Wow, you guys are trying to catch up here. You guys are just like chugging along here. Sean, check the barrel for obstructions. Oh. Remember writing Trump for circuit court judge in Illinois? Yeah. So is it a bad idea to come to the door with a fake gun if the cops are knocking? Yes. 100% bad idea. Oh. As a 705, Biden has won the Democratic Virginia primary. Oh, well, that's not a surprise. JC Adult says the deputy should have removed and checked the guns. Why did the witnesses do that? Because the judge is not making her deputies part of the court scene. They're there for security. They're not there to be witnesses. Because now they're involved in the case because they're demonstrating They're demonstrating exhibits. So you don't want them doing that. They were checked before he brought him into the courthouse because there had to have been things lined up in advance. So, but no, that's different. They have to be cleared in the courtroom, and that's part of being an expert. So, David says they're supposed to have been checked. Well, that's the thing, too. People mess up. But yes, even though they're checked, they get checked again in court. I mean, that's 100% easy to do. My God, you guys were not joking. Just you wait. Holy Jesus. Made my hair... Whoa. Was not good, chat. The judge denied showing the jury the barrel, the deputy showing the jury the barrel also. Yeah, and that's because he's not part of the team. Like make your person get up and show him the cylinder. Did Hannah check the guns when they came in the building? Yeah, that would have been great. That would have been awful. Who checked the guns? Oh, Your Honor, the defendant did. The judge had been like, please clear the courtroom. Leave them where they are. I called the bomb squad to clear them. I'll be like, Hannah, if there's a live round in this gun, I'm putting you in jail for fucking contempt. Yes, that's the other point. Nobody's supposed to get shot on the Rust set either. Oh. The movie sets were in like courtrooms. It came. Remember though, we had the case in the Crumley case where they were running like fucking zip ties through the guns and shit. Like, not all courtrooms are the same. Yeah, this will kill a man on the horse that he's riding. Yeah, that wasn't good either. So, yeah. So guys, yeah. Yeah, that's I can't fucking believe what I just fucking saw. I just can't believe what I just fucking saw. There's no way in hell I saw that. That's a lot of zip ties on a revolver, yeah. Holy gosh, I cannot believe I saw that. Oh. So, okay. So we are, I don't know, chat. My mind is fried right now. They had zip ties in the Murdoch guns, and he still, yeah. Well, I think that's all disgusting. So, where you guys? Oh, hello there. What are Chan's chances of being convicted? Well, let's start with the odds. Like, hold on here, Clyde, come here, Bubba. Come here, Bubba Bear. Clyde, come here, buddy. Clyde. He pushes the door open. He's like, "What's up?" And then like walks back out. What an asshole. So, we're a chance of being convicted. Like, they were probably like 97% yesterday before this started, and now they're at like 99%. So, how about that? Yeah, 9.9.5. How many years is she going to get? Probably 18 months. Oh, she was toast before this happened. So, I'll work on start getting hull divers in. I got to make some room. Actually, no, I don't. I got a lot of space still. So, but oh god, that was awful to watch. Ugh. So, all right, guys. So yeah, that's it. We will do day 10 tomorrow. I'm sure that's going to be stellar, and we'll be on verdict watch. So we'll start up at the normal time. I sent you that case on Twitter. Let me see here. Okay. If you send it to me, I'm looking for it. So I'll look for it real quick, Bella. If I don't find it, I'll reach out to you. Is 18 months the max ball we could get? Yes. Remember, though, Hannah's going to get charged with the evidence tampering, so it's 2 18-month sentences. So that's why I'm thinking she'll get just 18 months period. So yeah, just give my 2 10 terabyte hard drives. It's for a lot of horse porn. They washes, make sure they're like wiped DOD style, like D-ban. Did anything the defense do to help Hannah? No. But then again, there was nothing they could do. There's literally nothing they could have done. Like going back through all this, if they just sat there and remained silent, there's nothing else she could have done. Like literally, she is toast the moment she walked in there. So Bell says, I'll put it in the safe house. Okay. Patty's saying the La Cruz's PD knife video. What? If I Google that on YouTube, will that tell me? All right. Las Cruces PD knife video. Hold on here. Okay, this looks interesting. Why are we watching a cop show us how dangerous edge weapons are? If I go and Runkle, I'll send out a notification, guys. Jim stream this Friday. Yes, Daddy Jim is coming back to life again. Las Cruces, New Mexico. So down the road from Hanner. Reed. Oh my gosh. All right, let's see what happens here.
Police officer earlier this year in a completely unprovoked attack is the true meaning of a tragedy.
New video shows just how quickly a simple trespassing call turned instead into a deadly assault. This morning, Las Cruces Chief of Police Jeremy Story laid out a plan that
edit much of it. It is important.
A trespassing call early in the evening on
Okay.
arriving on the property earlier, which led to the call for business. Officer Hernandez.
Here for a while. What's up? Is this your place? So you're the one who called? You're the one who called? Huh?
Hernandez is just a few feet away when Silva pulls out a kitchen knife. Officer.
Well, that doesn't even help. The guy fell down. Like, yeah, obviously that's not going to go well. I thought you were going to tell me this guy was like some sort of knife expert. No, it's just he started running and tripped and fell like that. Yeah, that's going to end the fight already.
Officer Hernandez turns to get some distance, but trips. Silva pounces forward and stabs him multiple times. Seconds after the attack on Hernandez, Silva turns to confront a witness, Isaiah Astorga. That confrontation largely happened off camera, but Silva can be heard threatening Astorga, who then shoots and kills him. Astorga rushed to help Officer Hernandez.
Officer, hey.
Well, that dude's a G for standing up and doing it.
Hey, where are you bleeding?
Another man ran to offer aid and used Hernandez's radio to call for help.
Officer down, officer down. Where are we at? Valley and Amador.
Hernandez leaves behind a wife and 2 children and his community.
I mean, that doesn't really say anything about knife attacks being deadly. That's just, yeah, you can't trip and fall. So, yeah, I didn't know what the point was. It shows how dangerous knives are. Well, I think we all know knives are pretty bad, so. Yeah, don't fall down. So. Well, I can't find the unedited video, Patty, so you're going to have to send it to me. Those Doug Marcaida online videos paid off for that guy. Oof. Oof, that's rough. So. Yeah, guys, so that's it for tonight. If you guys still have time to go vote, go vote. And Video Leak Police has the body cam. Okay, well, I'll take a look for it later. I'm not sure what we're doing tonight. We might go on later. I'm not sure yet. We'll figure that out. But that is it for now, chat. If we do anything else, I'll let you guys know ahead of time. So, good night and take care. And oh my God, Hannah is screwed. Oof. Good night, guys.